Hello, my lovely child of the internet. It is I, Multi126789, welcoming you back for another Christmas special of the games of this year. Once again, it's a video, me talking about every single thing I played this year. I have played a total of 17 games. I made a list earlier this year. As I was beating games, I was writing it down. And yeah, I played 17 video games, and some of them are completable, some of them are just games that go on forever and just can be infinitely replayable. But I played 17 games, so I don't know how long this video is going to be, because I actually, am losing my mind while sitting here being like, I gotta record all of this. I genuinely have to sit down and record every single one of these things. Just for a point of reference, I'm recording this on the 6th of November, and now I'm gonna have to, start working on these, chipping away a little by little and talking about each of the games. Though, of course, if you're wondering what the video structure is going to be like, well, first of all, you probably already noticed in this intro, we have, chapters. So if you're interested in any specific game that I'm going to talk about, you can go ahead and click them down in the description, or just drag your mouse across the timeline right now to go to any ones that you like to look at. Two, I would like to tell you that, obviously, since I'm talking about these games, I'm going to talk about all of their aspects, including spoilers. So you have been warned before you even get any further into the video that, yes, if I talk about a video game, I'm going to talk about the spoilers. Maybe not into great detail, but I am going to talk about them. And three, yes, I'm going to count DLC as games that I played this year. It's going to have their own little section for that, so look forward to that as we talk about that later. And again, my last other rule, I guess, is the secret fourth rule. Any game that came out before the time I got to play it last year, aka any game that came out last year that I wanted to play but didn't get to play because of time restraints or other IRL events, will be added to this list, because that still is something that would be in quote-unquote this year. Genuinely, to me, I just like to show appreciation to the games that I wish I got to play the previous one, only because I feel bad, because I know how Games of the Year works when we talk about actual commercialization Game of the Year, where any game that comes out past a certain point doesn't get any recognition. I will never forgive them for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I swear to you, I will always be mad about that. But without further ado, my lovely child of the internet, I think it's time for us to go ahead and get started. So, hope you got some popcorn, hope you enjoyed your Christmas, and now let's get ready to talk about the countdown of games that I played in no particular order for my games of this year. Chaos is power, and power is enriched by the heart. To face your truth will make a future with your own hands.
There's no time to take it slow. Let the blood inside you flow. Find the way to the unknown. Yeah, trust yourself and let it go. There's no time to take it slow. Let the blood inside you flow.
Rise from 1,000 years ago, and you wake me from my empty dream. So yeah, we're talking about Fire Emblem Engage for the Nintendo Switch. Hey everybody, how's it going? I just had to do the bit. But yeah, so Fire Emblem Engage is a game that I played at the beginning of this year, on a long list of like 17 other games that I played from the beginning of this year. But yeah, how is everybody doing? Fire Emblem Engage sure is a Fire Emblem game that I played, and that I recorded this earlier. I recorded this specific thing very early on in my time of doing all of this stuff, and I deleted the footage. Not the footage, the audio work for this section. So we're doing it again. And I'm a little bit conflicted, because I'll be honest with you guys before we even start. We're talking about just the base game itself. No DLC, no nothing else, because I only played the base game, and the only things that I can talk about are the free DLC that came afterwards, but I did not pay for the DLC for Fire Emblem Engage. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let us go ahead and talk about the game and just give a brief overlaps of anybody who doesn't know what Fire Emblem is, even though this is like, what, the 12th game in the series? 13th game in the series? I think it's the 13th because that's a plot point in the game. Needless to say, we are so back with Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem Engage is a strategy RPG where you have cool anime characters doing cool anime character things in a world that looks cool for anime characters. It's bright, it's colorful, it has music that will rock your socks off, and a very mid story that genuinely made me kind of disappointed in the game, but hey, at least the gameplay is fun. But no, in all seriousness, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the game now instead of just beating around the bush. Fire Emblem Engage is really fun, but it has a serious flaw for me as somebody who's like, wow, they had so many chances to have a potentially cool thing happen and then they squandered it. Like, okay, first of all, I would like to say we're going to be talking about story spoilers. I played this game on my channel. If you don't want to get spoiled before you watch this section, please click the card in the top right. But like, generally speaking, the story of Fire Emblem Engage was spoiled by the time that they showed like the third or fourth trailer of the game, because they kept showing and telling us everything instead of like allowing us to figure that out on our own. It's not like the story is very complex to begin with for a Fire Emblem game, but that's like something that I think that didn't make me hate the game per se, but it definitely left me with a like, yeah, I still like the game, but the only thing that carried it for me was the gameplay and the characters. Because regardless of what you would say, I think the characters in Fire Emblem Engage were really good. I think I only, like, if I had to say a ratio, I liked 70 or 80% of the cast. The other 20, I was like, you could probably tell which ones I didn't care about. And yeah, I can't believe that they had to make me basically pick 4 different people from who I wanted to actually give the, what was it called? The bonding ring, I guess. That's their marriage thing for this game. Shout outs to the top 4 being, you know, your boy, Luis. No, it's not Luis. Nah. It's Louis. So we got Louis. We have, you know, Lapis. We have Goldberry, and we have Citrine. I put them in the order of which I would have chose them if, you know, we had the options. But I chose Citrine because I liked her arc with the main character a lot. And also we got to learn about, you know, Yanaka, which is really cool for her story. And I thought she was really nice. She's the one who has the blonde hair, and maybe I have a thing for blonde hair people. I don't know. You tell me in the comments below. But also I'm like, Goldberry would have been first if it wasn't for the fact that we don't get her until like literally mid of the game, which kind of ticked me off because I'm like, bruh, she's like literally the character design that I want. No in particular reason why. Also, she's like the type of character archetype that I just really enjoy. And then the other 2, Lapis and Louise, were 2 characters that I was like, I knew I was gonna like, but I didn't know I was gonna love them. Like, I was genuinely like, dang, it really sucks that I can only choose one of their events. Unless I save scum. But you know, and you're probably wondering, okay, Multi, you've been talking about everything but the gameplay. It's Fire Emblem. The one thing that changes is because of the combat rings and the emblem rings you get. I think they're okay, and I do like the idea of being able to have customizable skill abilities and traits for each of your characters. That is a wonderful thing that Fire Emblem Engage had for its gameplay loop. Though, I will give pause because in exchange for the rings, they then made the class system really ass. Like, we're not talking about regular. We're talking about that swampy, you know, that you should have taken a shower 5 times since yesterday sort of, you know, smell. But, like I said, it's still a fun game. Don't get me wrong. Like, seriously, I enjoyed Fire Emblem Engage, but I can understand why I keep kind of somewhat forgetting about it, that I played it at the beginning of the year, because because there are so many RPGs and so many other games that I played that very much wowed me more than Fire Emblem Engage. And honestly, I hate to say it because I do like the game, I still think I prefer Three Houses, and I'm just saying it's only because of like the story kind of making me be like eh, and then the class system being really restrictive, and I'm also like and then I'm like, okay, well, all of the cool stuff that I like is still here. It's just that it's kind of, you have to grind harder. Like, I think the only thing that makes this game very difficult to replay until now, because if you replayed it anytime before the mid of this summer, you wouldn't have had the DLC that actually makes it so you're capable of actually doing multiple things with your units, because SP is the thing in this game that allows you to actually learn more ring skills from the characters in Fire Emblem Engage. And you know, Fire Emblem Engage is cool and all, don't get me wrong. Again, I'm trying my hardest not to be mean, but the DLC I wasn't gonna pay for. The DLC bracelets look cool, and the story is like, and the DLC is like whatever. It's a what if scenario of everybody with the opposite of who they were, which means they're like only slightly mid. And then they turn every character that I like into mid. Great. And not even every character gets to be shown off, which is crazy to me. But, you know, it is what it is. I will say, though, because, again, like I said, this wasn't supposed to be a huge thing, you know. I'm talking about each of the games, and I'm talking about them for, like, 10 minutes on end. But, you know, I do like the spectacle of the final boss, and also, like, they actually incorporated some really nice and beautiful artwork and cutscenes. Too bad that also that was very jarring anytime we cut to a new location and it was just a JPEG. And I'm like, that sure is art. And not an actual 3D model, but that's okay, I guess. But yeah, Fire Emblem Engage, I liked. I wish I loved it. I wish I thought it was great. But again, the things that I really liked about this game really do boil down to, hey, at least the characters are fun, and the gameplay is still Fire Emblem, with some new tactical abilities that allow you to, like, completely break the game once you get past midpoint. But, at the end of the day, I really wish the story was just a little bit better. Again, not every Fire Emblem story is, you know, 100% cool, but, like, I really hated the missed opportunities they had, and that's what's always going to kill me with this game. But it was a game that I played this year, and let us go to the next game of this year. I'm kind of upset. In a good way, but I'm kind of upset. Because in this section, we're going to be talking about one of the games that I mentioned at the beginning of the video that came out last year that I didn't get to play because apparently Sonic and Pokemon both came out in November along with this game, so I clearly didn't get a chance to play it. I did get to play a demo of it, and I already made a let's talk about video games on it, and if you know what I'm talking about, and you probably looked at the timeline, so why am I even I don't know why I'm stalling it, okay? It's Harveststealla. Okay, Harveststealla is a really cool game that I'm going to talk about for the third time this year, and I know that you're all like, oh, you know, he's talking about this game again that is a JRPG and is for weebs, and I'm like, and? Like, do you not see my intros and outros for my videos, bro? I am, well, first of all, technically a closet weeb because I kind of revoked my card at some point because I don't even watch anime anymore. But to be honest, I'm like, I love Japanese RPGs. It's the only way that I consume any sort of media involving anime mostly anymore because, man, I don't have enough time or enough, you know, mattresses on my back, you know, to be able to just lay up and be like, I'm gonna watch 15 episodes of an anime. Instead, I'll have 200 hours to put in an anime game. Anyways, Harveststealla is a very good game that, how do I word this politely? Harveststealla is a game that I wish I got to play last year, but I wouldn't have gotten to the good part of the game until I reached the second half of the game. Again, I already know that you already know that we are talking about spoilers, but I would like to say this again. This game has two arcs. One arc, which is very simple and kind of, you know, not very memorable. And then the second phase and the second arc, which basically reminded me of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where I'm like, okay, we're just going this route now, and I didn't realize that you were gonna save all your money for the end of your game. And I'm saying this because, again, this game is supposed to be coded like a farming sim game, but it's just an easy, and I really do mean easy, and beginner-friendly action RPG, which is really strange because I already knew it was an action RPG because, again, there's no turn-based combat, so there's only one other option when making an RPG. But it's very simple. You only have a basic attack, and then you get 2 skills, but you get a bunch of classes to get to play with. But, you know, you level up and then you can unlock more skills, and you can get up to 3 skills at the same time, and then a basic attack. It's like cool and whatever, but a lot of the game is like, you know, walking back and forth and getting through temples / dungeons. I really enjoyed the dungeon design in this world because the world building in this game is really nice. The music in this game, okay, I will be honest, the music in this game only has like maybe 5 slappers, but also I wouldn't be able to tell you because Square Enix hates us and does not like them to like have access to their music for their spin-off or low budget games for some reason. So like you wouldn't be able to listen to this on YouTube or anything anyways because it's all copyright stricken, or somebody can't even find it because nobody did any coverage on this game. And honestly, I don't 100% blame people for not doing it because, again, like I said, Harveststealla is a game that basically, the first arc of the game is going through the 4 major places in the game. So we have, you know, the 4 season towns. So we have a spring town, a fall town, a summer town, and then a winter town. Once you do all of the dungeons correlated to that, then the next big event happens where we find out that, oh, you know, the main plot of the game actually takes place at this castle where the kingdom is supposed to be. But then the big revelation of, hey, there was never a king to begin with. We just made it up as the entities that live in this world that created this life. And then literally going through the entire second arc, basically being a big thing, lore dump, saying, hey, everything you've been doing has been a reconstruction of this world since it got destroyed because of the one thing that this entire game was about, which is Quietus, which was a big meteorite that ended up making an uncurable disease and killed a whole bunch of people. And then we had to turn people into robots and shit. And it's like, that's crazy. That is crazy to me. And the fact of the matter is, all the cool stuff is in the second arc of the game, and you have to play 30 hours of the first arc to get to the second arc. Now listen, my lovely child of the internet. I know I'm the type of person who's like, I really recommend this game, and I really recommend it now because it's a year later and it's probably on sale. If you see it on Steam, or if you see it on your Switch or your PlayStation, please pick it up if it's like 50% off. I think it's worth it at half of the price that the original version is. Because I did buy this when it came out. I just never got around to playing it, because like I said, Pokemon and Sonic both came out that time, and then by the time I finished both of those, it was almost Christmas, and I was like, well, I gotta do the games of the year last year so I can start making it a tradition. Like I said, the gameplay is very simplistic, though it has some very interesting stuff with the food mechanic and your hunger meter. Because basically every single action in this game will reduce your stamina / hunger, which basically makes it so you have to eat stuff to be able to continue doing stuff throughout the run of a course of a day in that game. Which is really cool because I think that's a good way to balance the difficulty, considering that basically you can probably, once you get to a certain point, you can basically almost one-shot or two-shot every enemy, because you'll either get powerful enough to be able to do that, you'll either do enough side quests to be able to level up. Which, may I also say, the quality of side quests in this game is actually really good. I actually liked a lot of the side characters and the side quests that we had for this game. And they even have like a social link system like, you know, Persona. I hate saying that so much, but basically you have these characters that are your party members that you learn your new classes from, and then they have their own scenario side events that you can go and see for each character to level up those classes and give you passive bonuses to make your character stronger overall. Again, you can do multiple in the day, so it's better than Persona in that regard. Sorry, Atlas, you really should change that. But you know, as long as you manage your time well and go through each place and just give yourself enough time to do each of the events, you can kind of just go in this game. Like, even the side quests are very, like, liberal, where it's like, you could end up doing, like, 2 or 3 of them in the same area and get them all done and then report them all by the end of the day if you're very good at the game. Which, after I think I got done the first month of the game, I started to really pick up on what sort of flow the game wanted from me. So then I was able to kind of just go in and out of dungeons, beat and collect stuff that I needed, and make and garden more food so I can keep going. And that's what made the game really fun. Like I said, I really hate that all the really good stuff is in the back half of the game. But that's why I'm not even talking to you about all of it here. If you're really interested in learning about that, there's probably a card in the top right corner right now of the actual video that's telling you you can go and click on the actual videos where I talk about almost every single spoiler and aspect of the game. And I know this probably is showing gameplay from some of the later areas, because without context, you won't even care anyways, and you'll just be like, oh, this is a cool part of the game. But like I said, you should really play the game if you can find it on sale. I know it's a year old, and I know it came out last year, but it really is one of the games that I played this year, and I really wish I played last year if I had the chance. So, if you got a chance to play Harveststealla, I definitely recommend it. Again, it's very simplistic, and it is relatively short depending on how much you wish to do. I say that you get the more bang for your buck for playing and trying to do most of the side quests, because a lot of them aren't very long or time gated. You can just kind of just do them at your own leisure while playing the game and doing regular stuff. But again, Harveststealla really did grow on me, and the bountiful harvest that was born from it was plentiful, because it was a game I really liked and was great, honestly. And it was another game that I played of this year. So thank you, Harveststealla, for giving me a game of the year for this year from last year, as we now bear fruit to the next part of this video. So, how do I even begin the Tears of the Kingdom section? So, you know, Tears of the Kingdom is a game, you know, that is predicated off of Breath of the Wild. We all know this, but genuinely speaking, I have never played a game that felt like it had a DLC expansion pass put into its game. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's been a while. I beat this game on my birthday. So, when the game came out originally, there was somebody who I, you know, IRL friends with that, you know, we both chipped in money and bought the game at the time, because for me, I wasn't really super interested in having the game myself. I just simply wanted to watch them play it, but then eventually at some point stuff happened. I had the game for a while because they were busy doing their own thing and I was doing my own thing, and then I basically started playing and trying to beat the game. You know, I really like this game. I don't know if I would say I love it. Because I'll even be honest, the original Breath of the Wild I only bought because that was the only thing that was on the Switch when it came out on day one. But anyways, before anybody starts throwing pitchforks and burning me at the stake, I'm not saying that the game is bad. I just think I really enjoyed it. It's not something I think is great and I loved it a whole lot. I just said it's enjoyable. I can play in the world of Hyrule and just abuse people and destroy people, and I'm okay for doing that because I'm the hero. I'm the hero, so it makes it okay. Anyways, so what is there to talk about with Tears of the Kingdom that I don't think you've already heard and regurgitated? The best part of the game is the undergrounds for me. A lot of people probably disagree with that, but I really like the underground because it basically is the one part of the game that I genuinely like doing, because it's just, I just get to beat up strong enemies and strong enemies get to beat up me. But eventually I get so good now that every strong enemy will bow to Link's power and my ingenuity to literally destroy every single thing that ever existed to threaten Hyrule, because that is what it means to have the Triforce of Courage and to also ingest the power of the Triforce of Power. Because of my prior wisdom from the Triforce of Wisdom, I am greater than almost everything in this game. Sorry, that's a little bit of hyperbole, I know. But one thing I think you guys will notice in the footage, I play almost all of this game on 4 hearts. until the game basically became bad, and the reason I'll talk about that will be in a little bit. But yeah, I played most of this game on 4 hearts because I thought that would be a funny haha. And also, I'm like, in the original Breath of the Wild, until I maxed out my stamina wheel, I said, I'm not going to get any health. Unfortunately, in this game, they force you to get 1 health off the bat, so that already ruined my run of having any higher health. But it's okay, because whatever, it's trying to be more a cinematic experience. But then the rest of my 100 and something hours, I forget, I think it was close to 110 hours of my game, of me running around Hyrule and just defeating everything and figuring out certain secrets and unlocking a whole bunch of gear, I had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun going around Hyrule with a new remix amount of skills and abilities to just go around and kind of just abuse the enemies in Hyrule. Like, seriously, I think the thing that was the most fun for me is just running around Hyrule and just destroying things, and then happenly stumbling upon something that would make me go and then that I would be like, oh no, that was cool, but also very frightening. Sorry, I had to pause there because I actually had a coughing fit when I did that inhale. But anyways, if you wanted to ask me how I felt about the story of the game, I mean, it's okay. I'm not a big Zelda head to begin with, and like I said, I wasn't actually going to play this game this year, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, if it wasn't for the person who was in my life who wanted to go splitsies on it, I probably wouldn't have bought this game, because I didn't want to buy it. I'm sorry, I'm a bad person, and I'm a bad Nintendo fan, because I'm not even really that big of a Nintendo fan. I just enjoy the games that they make, and I won't buy every single one of their products if I'm not interested. Sure, that's how I am. But genuinely speaking, I do think that the flow of going from above ground to the sky and back underground was a really good gameplay change that I think that game needed. Because honestly, having the underground was a really good place to like literally just be, you know, jump scared or being afraid of almost every enemy you see because they're like 10 times stronger than anything on the surface. But playing on the surface feels familiar while also being able to keep things new and fresh by every time you're getting new quests or a new objective to, you know, find, using your now cooler new tools, in my opinion, than the original game. You're basically able to just kind of like go ham on everything. Like, there is nothing that Link cannot do now, which makes him the most OP and almost super omnipotent character in that series. Like, it's kind of insane that he is the way he is, and he doesn't even know how strong he is. Dude be able to, like, perfect reflect laser beams. Now he's able to summon, you know, gusts of earth underneath people and also just destroy them using rock. And I'm like, it's kind of insane. Be able to summon familiars, being able to literally ride on any vehicle that would be any man-made, you know, torture or destruction device in modern day age, you know, and be like, yeah, I built this death contraption for this one specific enemy, and they're going to die. There is nothing they can do. Though, like I said, the story is whatever for me. I think the story was very plain and clear, and none of it really surprised me. I was just like, oh, it's interesting when they chose to show certain things. And also, the dragon veins weren't random. They were shown in the little chamber where you find and learn about them in the first place, to anybody who complained that that was a bad, you know, mechanic, because you weren't observant, so you got punished for it, and you deserved it, honestly. I don't apologize for that. Honestly, the last boss fight in this game was probably the peak of this game, and I honestly really enjoyed it, because the entire section is really cool, and I'm not gonna, you know, even though I could spoil it for people, if you haven't had a chance to buy it yet, I will spare you. You will be spared, okay? You will be spared. But just know that when you finally decide to beat the game after playing and putting, I would like to say, most normal people who like Zelda are probably going to put at least 500 hours in this game, which is exactly why that's exactly why when Nintendo and the staff from Nintendo said, we aren't putting DLC in this game, are you out of your mind? And I was like, yeah, no, I see why you wouldn't. How would you even add on to this game that already feels like you had like an extra 2 expansion packs put onto something and also remade everything with the new abilities and kits that you have? There's no way. And the one big issue I think that if I was to bring up this game to other people, that I think that everybody can agree on, is that they kind of did the same amount of shrines like in the other game, but they definitely felt like they had to restrict themselves due to the fact that the new kit that he had made it so there wasn't as many unique or interesting puzzles that they were forced to do, you know? And a lot of the things kind of got minimalized by being able to rewind time and of objects and being able to make like platforms with them by doing that, by getting them further and further until they reach their destination, which was crazy. But I think that's what makes this game fun, and honestly probably one of the best Zelda games. And I do think both of them deserve to exist coincided with each other, and not one swallows the other and the other one never has a purpose. Because honestly, the way that Breath of the Wild works, honestly, I do miss some of the mechanics, like being able to literally just walk to the final boss and not have to play half of the game, or like all of the game. I miss that. In this game, you're kind of gatekeeped from being able to do that, because you would have to finish all of the story stuff and other requirements to be able to do that. And honestly, I do miss that part of Breath of the Wild 1. And 2, some of the gimmicks and stuff that you could do in that one just felt really novel and fun. And yeah, people who want to whine about weapon durability, like, at least I can say about Tears of the Kingdom, you really shouldn't have a reason to whine and complain when every single time you walk into an enemy horde, you can always take one of their weapons and then add a cool weapon part or a monster part, and you basically have end gear weaponry. Like, it's actually insane how they scale everything in this game to make it feel like you're automatically going to always have what you need. But yeah, I think that's going to be everything for, you know, Hyrule. I do think that we were the hero of time that really was the twilight of all these princesses. But honestly, after taking this Wind Waker and, you know, taking off the Majora's Mask of this game, I think that we really hit a peak Zelda game, which deserved all of the hype and, you know, other stuff behind it. Even if it does get buried by everything else this year, in my personal opinion, because it was a Zelda game, so I was like, it's Zelda. I know that I played a Zelda game, and I wasn't super taken aback by it, even though they had cool stuff. At the end of the day, I still think that it is the Zelda of all time. It really is the Legend of Zelda, and one of the games of this year. Pikmin! Because it was peak, bro. It was literally peak. Hello, welcome to the section of the video where I'm going to talk about Pikmin. Pikmin 4 was a really fun game that I didn't forget per se, but I definitely felt like I didn't realize that I played and beat that game within like a month of it coming out. I think that was the one game that I think I played and realized that I did beat literally within the month it came out, or like almost 3 or 4 weeks of it coming out. To be fair, it was probably because I didn't decide to stream the whole game, because me personally, I realized as I was playing Pikmin and streaming it, Pikmin is a game that is most enjoyed when you're just doing it by yourself, because you don't really have a lot of colorful commentary to be other than, oh, sometimes a scary thing will jump out at you and then you have to react. But also for me, I think I enjoyed it immensely from streaming it, but then also playing it by myself, because it gave a different perplexing thing for me as somebody who enjoys Pikmin but doesn't talk about it a whole lot, and definitely not the most passionate person about it. Because I'll be honest with you, I've seen Pikmin 1, I've played Pikmin 2, I've seen Pikmin 3, and now I've played Pikmin 4. As you can tell, I have an even bias. But genuinely, I think that the thing is, Pikmin 4 is such a good game, and I really don't know what there is to say about it that people haven't already said. Ochi, my boy, my dog, you are OP, and I'm glad that they made you that way. There would have been hell to pay if they made that dog not OP. The whole game was for Ochi, and we all know it, okay? Like, listen. Now listen up, bro. It ain't rough to know in these streets, you know. These Pikmin need the assistance of a big dog, and he's the big dog on campus. Ochi is out here literally taking on enemies, destroying small enemies, literally carrying whole melons in his mouth, bro. I don't know how you learned to do that, but don't stop. Bro literally said, I got the gluck gluck, And I'm like, yo, bro, you gotta chill. This dude has the immunity to all elements and is super awesome and powerful? Like, that's honestly crazy. Also, can we talk about how in a while, I think this is the strongest Pikmin narrative game that we had, because there was a lot of characters in this game that did a lot of talking. Now, believe it or not, I do like the characters and the stuff in the game, but I sure wish there wasn't so many of them near the end of the game that all had to say something, because at the end of the day, I won't lie, it kind of became more irritating to have to mash through dialogue for them repeating something that we already heard several times from other characters near the end game and the post game of the game. Because yes, ladies and gentlemen, surprisingly, the regular game of, Pikmin 4 is just getting to where you save Olimar. And again, I'm going to talk about spoilers, so don't be surprised that I'm going to talk about it. But after you beat the main game, basically Ochi becomes sick because he got his tail turned into a, Pikmin flower by accident. And it's like, oops, we got to go find a way to cure our dog who literally was OD and handling all these Pikmin on this planet because, the Pikmin virus is a real thing. And basically that confirms a lot of things from a lot of Pikmin theorists being like, yeah, the onions are just a parasite that literally will latch on to anything and everything. So Pikmin's probably before were probably like some sort of vegetation that it just latched onto and used that. And as you saw with the game, the leaflings are all vegetation that was born from the onion used as, some sort of hypnotized state for a human, which is crazy. Because we always theorize that after the what-if scenario of the first game where Olimar doesn't leave the planet, and that's always something that people talked about. But I can't believe they made it an actual plot point that makes a lot of sense in this game. Also, Louis was in the post-game, and he was just, Louis being I wouldn't even say an asshole, but I would be like, he's just being himself and being like, I love this planet so much. Why do we gotta keep leaving this place? Because I literally get to eat and do whatever I want every single day. Don't gotta worry about no job. Don't gotta worry about no responsibilities. I literally just get to just control everybody and everything on this planet, and I don't have to worry about, anything. And so, of course, when we eventually make it through the final dungeon of the game, which is literally a boss gauntlet, which... By the way, that whole boss gauntlet is probably the funnest part of this entire game because it just shows and demonstrates how powerful Ochi is in the right conditions to every single boss. I think I destroyed every single boss in that cave within 3 minutes. Like, the maximum amount of time I think I took for any of the bosses was like a minute. If not, the maximum was 3 minutes. No boss is living long enough to handle Ochi. Even the final boss was kind of trivial in a way because it had way too many tails. And Ochi can just kind of do everything, man. Like, the only thing I will say, okay, because I actually did play multiplayer on stream. And honestly, Nintendo, please, if you're going to have multiple captains in the next game, please make the story being able to actually be played split screen with 2 players. Please, I'm begging you. I know it's asking a lot because you would have to then program a story around the idea of using 2 players. I know this. I know. But I think it's really integral that if there's 2 different types of people who can play the game, then you should be able to play as a separate captain instead of just a pointer thing where you throw bomb rocks that are really broken in this game, by the way. Like bomb rocks and ice bomb rocks and thunder... It's all that stuff is really OD for the second player to be able to do. But I really do think that you're missing out on a key experience that would make the Pikmin franchise just be boosted in everybody's mind. Imagine having streamers and people who are just casual gamers just having an actual adventure to go on with another person through the different world of Pikmin, just 2 people just trying to survive and collect stuff and, do all that fun stuff. Though I will say the one thing that was disappointing, because I guess it makes sense in the idea of this game, like, there's no real time limit at all, except the one that dictates when your day is going to end. But even still, I shrug because I'm like, it doesn't matter. none of it matters in this game, mostly, because all of it will eventually get resolved because of time passing. Even I think the night hunts, even though I do like the night hunts a whole bunch, where you just fight a bunch of enemies that get powered up during night, it gets kind of trivialized by the glow Pikmin, because glow Pikmin are things that you can only use in the caves in the game, which I never did because I didn't realize I could do that until literally the end of the game. But then when I did, I was like, oh, this is why these things are busted. Because literally being able to be invincible to everything, but literally getting crushed or eaten is kind of busted. Every element doesn't matter, and you can become a huge spirit bomb that then stuns an enemy and literally incapacitates them for 5 seconds? No, that's silly. That's dumb. But I love it, because everything about Pikmin 4, from the areas, from the music, from the visuals, it's so dumb, but it's perfectly good, and that's why I love that game. Even though it's one of the games that I played in the middle of this year and I only forgot about because I literally have been playing so many games from that point onwards, I loved Pikmin 4. I don't care if it was easy. I don't care if people think that, oh, they could have done so much more. To me, I think it was just fun because of the power of Dendori and all of the other shenanigans that was inside of that game. I very much enjoyed it. I never got to play the 2-player mode though, which I heard that people say it was a little bit weaker than 3 and also 2, so that's unfortunate, but I think it's because it's literally just Dendori battle again, but nothing else that's interesting, so that's okay. It was built into the system, but I also do think that the story mode having a Dendori battle and also the Dory challenges where you just try to do stuff as fast as you can within a time limit, those are the funnest things in this game, for sure. Because the caves, in my opinion, weren't bad, but I definitely think they didn't get to do as many ideas with them as they wanted. And of course, the best cave is the one where you do the boss rush, in my opinion, so why are you even asking? Literally, that was the coolest cave in the game, and it's only in post-game, so if you guys didn't beat post-game, well, I'm sorry, you just missed out. But yeah, I think I've rambled on about Pikmin 4 enough for one evening. It's 10:12 p.m. And thank you all for listening. But as the Pikmin would say, we'll catch you on the next part of the games of this year. Ah yes, Omega Strikers. You know, I don't know really how to start this section off, but other than saying that, you know, during April, a lot of stuff came out. A lot of games came out, and a lot of things that I was interested in came out in that, or was around during that time. For me personally, because I was trying to finish a game known as Harveststealla that I think we already spoke about at some point in this video, and if not, we're probably after this point. But, you know, we were in a weird place where Omega Strikers came out as I was playing the Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed DLC, and also trying to beat Harveststealla, and then this game came out of nowhere and said, hey, buddy, have you ever heard of League of Legends? And do you like air hockey? What if we gave you both of the type of dopamine that you would be craving and that you knew that you wouldn't be able to escape from for about 180 hours? Yeah, so Omega Strikers is a really cool game. I played 180 hours of it as of this recording. I haven't really went back to it other than to get the footage you're probably seeing for this video in particular. Not because I don't like the game. It's more just because, again, a bunch of games came out after the fact, and right now my attention is split off elsewhere with games that I want to play. This section isn't going to be as long as the other ones because I still think Omega Strikers is a very solid, you know, 7 or 8 out of 10 game that came out in April. And I think one of the things that makes this game very fun is because there's a bunch of characters that you can unlock just by playing the game, not spending any actual real-life money on unlocking characters, because you can just basically unlock every character just by continuously playing the game, getting better, and just enjoying the game, as long as you're not playing ranked like I did, like a fool, and I ended up getting too serious with the game, and then I realized that I'm not having fun because I'm doing that. So I then took a step back and said, Okay, well, what are the aspects of this game I like? I like the cool systems where you can get perks for your characters to make them stronger over the matches. All the characters have some unique functionality, and there's pros and cons to using all of them. The 3-on-3 format is really good, and I would agree to more 3-on-3 games because I've played stuff like Knockout City, which I thought was really fun, and I thought this game was also very fun because the way you can play this game is you either focus on being a person who scores a bunch of goals, or you focus on somebody being either a defender, a scorer of a bunch of goals, or, you know, a knockout master where you can just basically knock out people from the ring so there's less players on the enemy team to actually test you. The only reason I stopped playing, like I said, there was two real reasons. Like I said, competitive is a thing that every video game has. Right now, my attention is at playing My Hero Rumble, and I also enjoy playing that game. But I must admit that even though I play rank on that game, it does not make me as infuriated as playing ranked in, I was about to say League of Legends, and obviously that's not the case, but you know, Omega Strikers. But it is so close to League of Legends where it comes to the toxicity of the entire group of people who play, that it's like, they're the reason why I stopped playing the game, because I realized that the community is not the community for me, personally. I was even on the Discord for Omega Strikers at some point, but then I realized that some of them are not very pleasant to talk or play with, because people will have their own opinions on who's to blame for games and all that other stuff. But I'm like, I'm just playing the game on competitive because I just want to chill and somewhat get better. I don't really care about my ranking, and I really don't care about the outcomes of most games as long as I'm trying and playing my best. But when other people make it unfun for you to play, hey, it turns out that when you make a game unfun for somebody to play, they probably will stop playing it, and therefore a lot of the user base will disappear, and then there won't be anybody to stick around and play the game. Also that, and I also realized that playing the Switch version, even though I wanted to play that version because it would have been and felt the most comfortable for me because I know the controller very well. It turns out that, you know, that one was the one that always got shafted when it came to updates and like getting stuff increased. So basically I would always be behind because of the hardware I chose, which is unfortunate, but if you're playing on PlayStation, Xbox, or on PC, you probably have the best experience out of all of us, because you literally get to have the updates always updating, the load times and speeds always fast, and everything snappy and responsive, and never you have to worry about a lag spike in your life. Though I will say, like I said, it's a 7 out of 10 game for me. I still enjoyed my time with it, and I definitely am glad that I played Omega Strikers for what it was worth. Will I go back to that game in the future? Yeah, I'll give it probably a couple of more months before I decide to go back and settle myself back into that game. Right now, like I said, My Hero Rumble is where my eyes are looking at, and yeah, we'll be talking about that probably a little bit later, but that is another one of my games of this year, and, you know, even though I didn't get to the core of the issue, I was still able to strike some good goals in and have some good times with the groups that I played with in Omega Strikers. So F-Zero 99 is a game that I enjoyed and I played, and I'm only making this section relatively short, mostly because, first of all, I'm recording this like a couple of days after the fact because I realized I didn't have my audio for this that was compatible with my software, and two, there's not really much you can say about F-Zero 99 that hasn't already been said. F-Zero is a beloved series to a lot of individuals who really like F-Zero. Though we didn't get a full game, the Nintendo Online Expansion Pass gave us a free game that after the September Direct, which was really impressive and fun. I ended up putting like 15 hours into the game. I would have put more, but there was like 17 games, like I said, on this list that I ended up playing and doing all at the same time. So, needless to say, F-Zero 99 was one of those games that ended up getting some playtime, but I definitely couldn't go back to it because I knew I had other things that I needed to do and complete. Like, by this point, I think, since it was September, I had, like, 3 or 4 different things that I was going to be having to juggle for the rest of the year until, you know, December, because that's when I got my last few games finished and completely off my plate. But F-Zero 99 was really fun. I forgot that, you know, a racing game doesn't have to be as, okay, I'm gonna say this nicely, as rude and disrespectful as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the booster pack, you know? It's just a racing game through and through with you knowing technical skill and using your abilities to know how the game functions to be able to win and get a victory. Honestly, all in all, I wanted to play more of that game and try to get better, but, you know, as things and times goes on, you know, either people are going to play a lot of it or people are going to fall off of it. And I think the only reason why people fell off of the game is literally because of, like I said, the reason why you can't probably find too many games of that or people streaming it as much is literally because literally September, October, and November were kind of killer months for like a bunch of video games. Though, like I said, you're seeing gameplay footage of me when it first came out and I was enjoying it and playing it. Ultimately, I will probably come back to that at some point, but if it's still alive and people are still wanting to play it after all of these video games that come out. Because realistically, December is probably going to be the best year where it's probably going to spike in attention again if you're going to play F-Zero 99. And if you're a streamer trying to play it, you could probably definitely get an audience to join in and play the races. I think the most interesting part about that game, at least for me, is that it feels fair. You know, if I lose in F-Zero 99, I knew it was because I took a risk or took a bigger bite out of crime than I shouldn't have and died. You know, a lot of the things that are interesting about this game is like there's no items, there's just boosting and drifting and turning, and that's it. Everything else is usually just, most of the stuff is, hey, we're going out of our way to literally just try to knock people out so you can get a bigger health bar, which gives you your boost also, but that's basically it. That's the only strategy in the game. Either you just race and try to be a calm driver who just tries to stay in front the whole time without worrying about people in the back, or if you're in the back, you KO other people so you can help yourself get further to the front so you don't get knocked out yourself. All in all, I think F-Zero 99 is a wonderful game and really is probably one of the better NSO or Nintendo Switch Online games that they have created, because I think a lot of people now really appreciate F-Zero for what it has to offer, and I think a lot of us are excited now to see if they actually go through and make a new F-Zero, because to be honest, I do feel bad for everybody who got excited to see F-Zero but then realized, yeah, it is still a 99 game and probably one day it might get discontinued like how Mario 35 did, Pac-Man 99 did, etc., you know. So it's always up in the air for contention, but hopefully when they decide to close down the game, they have a new game in place for people who like F-Zero, because everybody was interested and everybody who still likes the game is still playing it right now. I just hope that in the future that they can actually sit down a dedicated team from Nintendo to create something just as good as like how they basically reinvented the wheel for Pikmin by making a complete, how do I describe it? Like a new complete fresh take on the series while still maintaining the things that made the series good in the first place and integrating it in a new way to make it feel fresh and new while also exciting. You know, that's what we need for F-Zero, and I think if we get a new game or even a budget title with some amount of money put into it or being able to be purchased for it, and then having updates and constant things that are cool and new that you can try in the F-Zero series, I think F-Zero had the chance to flourish. And honestly, I'm glad that it was one of the games that I got to experience this year, because honestly, with all the high-speed action, it really makes me appreciate other racing games and makes me realize I don't hate racing games. I actually like them. It's just Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the booster pack may make me think a little. Pizza, pasta, upadakimasu. Pizza, pasta, upadakimasu. Masu. I got pizza pasta, and I said utakimasu. Yes, so we're talking about Vampire Survivors. I know that game technically came out on PC a while ago. Like, I think that game was out for a year in closed beta, but technically people could play it as if it was the full game. But now that the full game has been released on the Nintendo Switch, I'm actually able to talk about it because I played and beat it and saw credits. So yeah, that game is actually beatable, but it is a what is the type of game that we call this one? It's a 30-minute run and gun slash survival game where you just run around to defeat a bunch of enemies for 30 minutes and then level up. That's really the basis of that game. The thing is that's interesting about Vampire Survivor though, it's very fun. It's very addictive. I think I put at least 30 or 40 hours, maybe even 50 hours to see credits. I think. I don't remember because again, that game is a blur, and after I beat it, I had to immediately get into September and October, which basically we'll be talking about those games later. That basically took away the rest of my memory of the game. I enjoyed the game quite a bit because again, it's very simplistic, but like I said, and I think I've said before for other games, simplistic games are always very nice. This game is less than $10, including the DLC, by the way, because I did buy the DLC. And it's just a game that you can take it with your Switch anywheres that makes you feel good, because you could waste at least 3 hours of just doing stuff and unlocking stuff, and then you'll feel like you've made enough progress for the day, and then you can drop the game and then pick it back up at any point. It does have other features like, you know, you can change how many max weapons you can get, you can change whether or not certain properties or certain effects can take place during your playthrough. Like I said, depending on what you do, you can unlock achievements and gain extra stuff, which that's super cool. I haven't 100%ed the game, but I did get the credits, which basically means you basically do, like, I think like 75% of whatever's in the game, and making sure that you unlock a certain amount of characters to then unlock a secret cool thing, which, again, genuinely, it took me back that when I beat the game, that I was like, wow, there was actually a credit scene and an ending to the game. I was not expecting that. But also at the end of the day, I'm like, that's really cool and thick. So I can't even complain, because honestly, I got more than $5/$10 out of this game. Even counting with the DLC, I think I got away with, like, robbery, I think it's the right word. I mean, like I said, the game isn't very complex. It's one of those games that you just come back to just to play, to have fun, and to, like, turn off your brain. Like some of the games that will be on this list this year, I really enjoyed this game because at least at the period of time when that came out, there was nothing that I wanted to personally play on the Switch at the time, and I basically caught up with almost every single game that I had on my list for this year. So playing Vampire Survivor is really nice. I know people will say that the PC version probably is the superior way to play. I wouldn't know, because I haven't bought that version. I just bought the Switch version because I bought the Switch version before I got this PC that I now use for every single thing I do. So I think the PC version is really good, and people tell me that the superior version of, you know, the PC version of Vampire Survivors is Hollow Cure, which is an anime VTuber version of it, which I have played also, and yes, I do think it's very good. Before anybody asks, you know, I do think the game is very good, you know. But yeah, Vampire Survivor is pretty cool. I love that game. I played at least a solid 40 hours of it and got credits. I collected probably over like 300 golden eggs, but by the time I beat the game and I unlocked 100, and I think I said it was 160 on the dot, 160 of the unlockables out of the 172, I think, which is pretty good, considering almost everything I unlocked was just me just playing the game normally and just kind of being like, I just want to try a new character and see how they work, or I just want to try a new setup and see if they are any fun to do, and I want to go to these new stages and try to see if there's any secrets, and all of that stuff was really fun. So yeah, I can say I definitely love this game, and honestly, it's pretty high up here for the stuff I played this year. Considering I already knew that I was going to be like one of the type of people who would like the brainworm type gameplay of Vampire Survivors, I'm not surprised. But yeah, thank you for listening to this section, because Vampire Survivors, even though you may not be able to defeat Dracula, was still one of the games of this year that left me ghouling for more. That was actually bad. Well then, you guys know how I said I basically played like 17 games, right? So I made a list of all the video games that I played, and I thought I checked them twice. But this game was both naughty and nice, and I completely forgot about it. And now that it's like the 12th of December, as I was finishing up editing and saying, wow, this video was like almost 2.5 hours long, but I'm glad I'm finished. Guys, I wasn't finished because Master Detective Archives Raincoat is a game that I played that I completely forgot about. Not because I didn't want to remember it, it's literally because there were so many games I played that now I'm coming back and making this recording. And I thought about not even talking about it and putting it in the end part of this video, but I decided against it because it'd be disingenuous not to talk about the game that I did really like. I did a full playthrough of on the channel. Card up in the top right corner, by the way. Haha, sorry, me in the future who has to put that in. But no, Master Detective Archives Raincoat is a really fun game. That's a visual novel game made by the same team that made all of the Danganronpa games, and you can definitely tell. And this is their first 3D project, which, honestly, for their first 3D project, I gotta say, and I'm gonna say this because I'm being nice, they did a pretty stellar job for transferring like how they usually do their visual novel / detective gameplay from 2D to 3D. With that being said, also, ignoring the big loud noises in the background of my recording, I think Raincoat was definitely a game that I played at the middle of this year that I really just enjoyed, just due to the nature of the game not being too complex, not even being that... How do I word this without being, or sounding disrespectful? The game isn't very difficult. I don't think that the difficulty level in this game really matters, but if you just go through it and play it and enjoy the narrative of the game, you can have fun with it. I mean, this is the game that had the I hate poor people, they have deranged personalities, and also a character named Desuhiko who barely escaped all the allegations that he ever got in that game. Because I swear to you, I don't think there's been a game that I've been like, bruh, I can't believe this writing makes me literally... I wouldn't say cringe, I would say literally made me go, brother, how did they get away with this? To be fair, we're not going to talk about all the story stuff here, but I just wanted to basically open it up like that because there's also other aspects of the story I like that has to do with spoilers. For example, the one part of this game that made me really realize I love this game is because of a very niche I wouldn't say niche detail. It's just that if you've played the other games of the, of the Spike Chunsoft series called Danganronpa, one of the major plot points / spoilers / big revelations that I already knew, but got talked about near the end of the game made me pop off, is that when you played the first chapter of this game, they actually have, like, red blood. And you don't think that's a big deal or a thing until you get to the end of the game where it reveals a big part of the plot where it's like, oh, them having pink blood is a literal... is a literal plot device that actually is supposed to be a red herring. And I already knew that coming into the game because I thought it was weird that they would make the artistic decision to show blood for only one version of, story beat and then never talk about the fact that it changed. And also the characters acknowledging that it changed and it was weird, but nobody talked about it because we're like, okay, I guess this is just how it is. I thought that was still the funniest and most coolest thing in the game because I'm like, yo, they're so smart for literally trolling everybody, or at least basically making it to make people believe that they had... what's the word I'm looking for? Had expectations for how the game was going to be presented and then wasn't. But I will say, a lot of the game I kind of guessed already before, like, most of the plot points happen, because this game has a very bad tendency of doing the thing where it's like, hey, is this your first time playing I was not gonna say JRPG, but a, game where you just kind of just go, oh yeah, by the way, do you want to go ahead and, like, play this video game and, like, learn the story? Let's repeat the same plot points over and over again so you can nail it into your head, like the Nail Man. Like, I won't lie, I will say that, yeah, they let you rest too easily in this game to just, like, kind of think about almost everything every single time they talk about something. And I'm like, it's not the worst thing in the world, don't get me wrong. It's just that it's one of those things where you start noticing it the more you play it, and then it's like, wow, I can kind of guess every plot point now because the game keeps trying to not hide it, but like in the worst way possible, where it's like, yeah, there's obviously something here. My favorite chapters in the game, by the way, which is going to be the last thing I'm going to talk about, is Chapter 0. Chapter 0 is like one of the strongest opening chapters, I think, for one of these narrative games that they've ever made. Like, it explains all of the world building stuff while also making a plot where, hey, all of these characters that you see on the box art that's on the front of the box, they actually don't matter. They're gonna die in this first chapter, and you will never hear or see of them again, and it will literally be irrelevant for the rest of the game. It actually threw me for a loop because it had one of my favorite character designs got killed. Rip to Gold Mary, man. Rip to Gold Mary, bro. My second chapter that I really liked in the game when thinking about how much I liked the game was Chapter 2. Chapter 2 was also a good one, because even though I understood the plot twist way before we had to, like, you know, talk about it, it was one of those things where I was like, oh no, I already hate where this is going, because I'm sad, because, yeah, the reason why the murder happened in that one was kind of just, you know, it happened because of misuse of power and not helping people literally stop somebody who was doing something malicious. And then Chapter 4 and 5 are Chapter 4 and 5 that I'm not even going to bring up in super detailed spoilers, even though I already did talk about one of the main things about that part of the game that it's a spoiler. But genuinely speaking, Code Rain is a really good game, and I'm very glad that Spike Chunsoft was able to make a new 3D game, and hopefully going forward being able to continue to hone their skills when making a video game. Because me personally, even if the writing is a little bit crude like the other Danganronpa games, I still think it's a good fun game. Like, I think it's not gonna challenge you mentally like I would say a series called like 999 or the Nonary games, you know. But it also won't be as long and drawn out maybe as a Phoenix Wright game, where you could basically guess what's going on at certain points, and then you have to go through all the methods of showing evidence and stuff. But I still think it was a fun game nonetheless. Deca Police didn't come out this year, so the other detective game that I was hoping to play hasn't come out, but it's okay, because Code Rain kind of filled my entire soul with a game that made me feel emotional and also made me enjoy playing another visual novel. So I'm glad that it was a game of this year, even if I did forget about it for a little bit. Okay, I won't say anything else, but I'm very glad that I got to play it, and I'm glad that it was one of the games of this year. My Hero Ultra Rumble is a game that I got addicted to at the latter half of this year that came out. I did not know this game came out until probably, what would I say it was? It actually came out with an open beta during the summer of this year, which again, I was playing so many video games, I kind of didn't have time to even know or acknowledge that existed, because at the time I was playing something called Omega Strikers, which has probably already been shown off in the video. But My Hero Rumble ended up being one of my now cool new addictions that I did not know that I was going to enjoy, because needless to say, this was based off of systems in Rumbleverse, and I was very bad at Rumbleverse when it was out last year, so I basically did not really enjoy my time with the game. Not saying it was bad, it's just I knew I was like, it's not for me. So coming into My Hero Rumble and watching people play it on Twitch or on YouTube and being like, what is this game and why does it keep showing up in my feed? And then I watched the gameplay of it, I'm like, oh, this is like Rumbleverse. I should probably stay clear. It's probably not for me. To then now putting at least 50 plus hours into the game and now realizing I'm basically stuck. Now, again, this being said, and being a very generous person, this is a three-team how do I word it? It's a 3-team battle royale game where you basically have all of the characters from My Hero, and if you like anime and if you're a weeb like myself, or even a closeted weeb like myself, yeah, you're gonna enjoy this game, because they start off with all of their movesets or their iconic moves from the show, and you basically go around and just taking out all the other characters that are also from that show. And it's really fun, genuinely speaking, because you can play as an attacker role, speed/agility role, a technical character, healers and support and defensive types. There's all kinds of types of characters that you can play as in My Hero Rumble. And genuinely speaking, it doesn't really matter who you decide to main or pick as a character. You can just have fun just coming into the world and just destroying stuff. Like, genuinely speaking, you're probably seeing footage at least, or some game footage of me playing and doing some really cool and interesting movement tech and things in the game, because, like I said, I did not think I was going to take this game as seriously as I do. And I mean, I still have fun playing the game, and I don't take it so seriously that I don't enjoy myself anymore. Don't get it twisted. But, you know, the fun thing about this game is just that it is just an anime game through and through, with, you know, very interesting combat and very interesting things that you get to learn. Like, there's things that you have to learn, like you can do really cool movement tech where you can use your cards or ability cards from different characters and have different, you know, extra power, extra defense, extra mobility, being able to run up walls. Maybe you would have the capability of strengthening yourself for a final last minute victory in this 8-team brawl, you know? And I think what makes this game more interesting to me and makes it more fun, each match usually only takes like 10 minutes. Like, sometimes I think you can end up having a match that only lasts 5 or 6 minutes, depending on where everybody spawns. Because, like I said in this game does not hold your hand when it comes to people attacking or beating you down. Like, the game is an 8-team game where basically each team has 3 people on each team. So if you're not paying attention or being careful, teams can sneak up on you, or you can sneak up on other teams and just kind of knock them out before they get a chance to recover, and then the games go by pretty fast. The thing that I do enjoy about it is because, unlike things like Fortnite or the original Rumbleverse or any of these other free-to-play games that I've played, I don't feel like I have to commit more than, you know, 15 minutes to a match. That's not counting, of course, loading into a match and everything, but I'm just saying, in general, the time, the overlaps, and the phases of going through this game and the motions of this game are really, really fun. And, like, you don't feel like you literally get to sit around and do nothing the whole time, because somebody will find you, and the zones close very quickly to make sure that all of the action is happening the whole entire game. And like I said, considering that you actually start off with movesets and actual character abilities when you start the game, actually makes this game a lot more enjoyable. Because, to be honest, I play a lot of characters in this game, 4 to be precise. I play Ida, the class rep of Class A from My Hero. I also play Inardi. I don't know how to pronounce their names, I'm sorry. But she's a support healer who works really well with teams by just helping keep people pinned down or keeping them at bay so your teams can be supported and from the shadows or from the sidelines, and keeping the pressure on the opponent. Another character that I started liking a whole lot is, I forget what her actual name is, but I think it's... No, I'm not even going to butcher it. But her ability is to be able to make her hands larger. Now, you don't think that's interesting until you start playing as her and you're like, oh, I can start shooting rocks at people, like scooping a whole bunch of rocks and throwing them at people and doing like a lot of damage. And she can put up a shield to stop people from being able to attack her or her teammates. And also having the ability to literally just give them the clap on, clap off. You know, the clapper. My favorite product from online TV shows. Anyways. And, like, there's a bunch of characters I just try. Like, Dobby, which is a villain, and also Shigaragi. I really both enjoy their playstyle. Even if I don't do very well with them sometimes, I still enjoy their playstyle. And, of course, there's so many different other characters that they've been adding over the course of the game that I've just been like, wow, this game feels like a fresh air when it comes to these sorts of Battle Royale free-to-play games, because I feel like even if you don't feel like you're the best at it, you can still be able to win and find victory at some point during your game. Like, I used to play Cementos, but I don't play him very often now. But I kind of want to go back and start learning him and seeing if I can't get better, because the one thing that I think that my hero does very well is that because you already start off with 3 abilities and you don't have to randomly open a chest to see if you have a weapon that you can use to fight off somebody, you just start off with 3 basic abilities and then you just power them up by collecting cards. It allows the gameplay loop to be very, 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 very good. If the only thing I have to complain about the game is that unlocking characters might take a little bit of time because, again, it's a gacha game and it makes you grind, but you will have enough characters unlocked and selectable to be able to, like, learn different characters as you go. And I think that the game only has 1 ranked mode and then all the rest is unranked, but I think that's pretty fair considering the type of game that it's trying to be, which is trying to introduce a lot of people to the show and to the characters and trying to be able to be like, here's a beacon of a game that basically is probably... I've played One Hero Justice, and I think the fighting game is okay, but I do think that My Hero Rumble is, like, leagues above this of showing off, like, the characters and their playstyle and the way that they would be presented in the show. Because I think My Hero Rumble is one of the strangest types of games that I'm like, is based off of something that I didn't like, that I ended up liking a lot now that it has a new basis. But yeah, don't take my word for it, by the way. Like I said, it's on the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation, the Xbox, and on PC. And let me remind you, it's a free game. So the only thing I would recommend, don't spend money on this game. Please. Please don't. Because this game is very good with currency, as long as you keep playing the game, and they give you a bunch of dailies and weekly stuff to do to be able to roll and get new characters and new skins and stuff. If you want to buy the, what they consider the Season Battle Pass, I guess you can do that too. I just personally am just the type of person who's like, be careful about that sort of thing, because, you know, you might play the game for a while and enjoy it, but you might stop enjoying it. It means that you put money into something that you might not actually enjoy anymore. Speaking of that, because I played Fortnite and that happened, you know, it's still a game that you can have a fun time with, and it's another game that I played this year that really surprised me and took me off guard, but I'm glad that I found it and got to enjoy it. So thank you, you know, for creating another addiction for me. My goodness. Xenoblade Chronicles is such a wonderful series created by the developers at Monolith Soft. And obviously you knew this section of the, you know, games of this year was coming because something Xenoblade related has came out. I'm about to gush about it. You guys are going to listen to me for quite a little bit as I talk about it. But ultimately, this is a DLC expansion that came out for the 3rd game in the series. Which, if you remember last year's video, which, by the way, there's the card in the top right corner of the screen if you're watching this section of the video, you can go and see the old game of the year and also the playthrough I did on 3. I think 3 is the immaculate, and it's a very good 8 or 9 out of 10. This DLC, I very much enjoyed. I think it added a lot more to the base game, but also had its own identity as the side game that I really enjoyed a whole lot. Like, I played this back in April, like I was discussing with the Mega Striker stuff, and to be honest, it came out at a pretty good time before all of the games start hitting for the rest of the year. And a lot of the things that I enjoyed about base Xenoblade 3, I kind of got to enjoy in the DLC, minus some features, because some prevalent features in 3 that are plot relevant, so I'm not going to talk about them. And also, I will say, I can talk about some spoilers in this section, but I'll let you know when I decide to talk about them. But the gameplay and the exploration in the DLC was the forefront of what made it very good for me. It's been a while since I played, personally, an RPG that had chest in games that actually meant something and meant progression. Because the way that they structured Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed DLC, which, yes, that's a mouthful, and I don't know why I said it all. The whole conceit of the game is that you're walking around with your crew of 6 characters in this DLC, and basically to power up and like get a bunch of your characters maxed out, you need to do a lot of exploring and going and backtracking to areas and finding these really big chests that give you all of the mechanics from the third game that, instead of being given to you after you reach a certain level threshold, is actually given to you after you explore a certain area and find a certain item drop, and just pick a character that you wish to boost. Me personally, when I'm thinking about the characters that I enjoyed playing in Future Redeemed, I enjoyed playing A and I enjoyed playing Glimmer. Those were probably the two characters I usually played the most. Then I'd play Shulk, and then I think it would be Rex, and then Matthew. Nicole I enjoyed, but also I definitely see that they had another glaring issue with another tanky character, where he's really only there to be survivable in the last ditch effort to be able to help people and keep them out of danger rather than being the star of the show. You know, it fits with his personality trait in the actual game itself, being a very shy and bashful person, but when he wants to get serious, he will, and help his friends and teammates and allies alike, you know? The combat in the Xenoblade game is obviously peak. Like, let's not talk about it. I also think what they did for the gameplay changes to make it work within the realm of, how it does its changeplay, keeps the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 gameplay style in tuned while also making it something fresh and original for the DLC. They also did a really immaculate job of that. There was obviously some standout ways to build your characters that you couldn't build otherwise, but, you know, I still think that the game itself was very fulfilling just to play and beat, because it did feel like I was just playing another Xenoblade game. But I mean, Monolith Soft, if you've ever heard from me praising about them, and which you have, because I will continue to do that until the end of time, or until this channel somehow gets deleted. All of the Xenoblade games up to this point, as of this recording, are immaculate in their own way. I think even though there's similarities between all of them, they all have a unique style or way that they want you to approach, or how you can approach their games, that doesn't make you feel polarized to have to just kind of stick with one tried and true strategy, in my personal opinion. Now, we're going to talk about some of the spoilers, because I just wanted to talk about this now that we're near the end half of this. But you already got warned at the beginning of this, you know, games of this year, I'm going to talk about spoilers. But if you're interested in playing this DLC, and you still haven't beaten 3, or you just don't have any of the Xenoblade games played, because please don't start with 3. I know people, and I know the developer said, yeah, you can start with 3 and then you can play the other games. But I'm like, if you start with 3 and then go backwards, you'll actually feel a little bit sadder that you didn't play them in at least chronological, or played at least some of the other older games before playing this. But I digress. I'm just going to talk about it. So the main conceit and story of this DLC is that, you know, a character from 1 named Alvis became Alpha, one of the Trinity processors, and he's the big bad guy of the story, explaining a lot of reasons why 3 as a game existed in the first place, and leading up to all of the stuff that happens in 3 base game, which is really cool, because again, the whole time you're playing with these characters that you know and like, and the reason why they're not there in the base game of 3 is because of the sacrifices and the hardships that they go through in this DLC in the pre-game before 3, which I think is really cool. A being a split off entity from Alpha / Alvis is really cool. I like that. You know, Glimmer and Nicole basically confirming that, well, for Rex at least, he already has 3 kids, so it didn't need to be confirmed. But for Shulk to have a kid, yeah, that was nice. You know, that's was a nice little reveal for both of those main characters. Basically having dad bonding moments with their children, that was nice. But yeah, most of that game was just really fun, and also the revelations that they basically are trying to tie all of the events from Xenoblade 1 all the way up into now, and probably what they're going to continue on working on with the overarching plots of the Xenoblade whatever title that they put for their games after the 3rd game, because, you know, they were doing a number trilogy for the base games of this saga, of this arc of, you know, the very first game, which again, if you have not played any of these games, it's pretty hard for me to explain, but is based around one character that set off the chain of events that happened within all of these worlds, and then getting the conclusion to that in the third game, which is nice. But yeah, no, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed is really good. I think as a DLC, I don't know if I think it's stronger or weaker than Torna, the Golden Country, because I really like both of them. I like both of them for two different reasons. The gameplay in Torna, the Golden Country was really just fun, and everything about it was really cool. But I think the exploration in 3 really made me enjoy it a whole lot more. But, you know, at the end of the day, now that I keep thinking about both of those DLCs and like how much I liked in the improved battle system, I really wish that they would go back to the exploration of Xenoblade Chronicles X, where we could actually just do moon jumps, travel in big machinery, and just travel the world, you know? Because I feel like Xenoblade is missing that one last piece to just really make it what they envisioned for their entire game worlds, which maybe with a better console with better hardware, they'll be able to do that. Not like they had to compromise too much, but I do like that the game is still attempting to still try to make things fresh every single time. And I really appreciate Monolith Software existing and creating wonderful games for us to play. I can't thank you guys enough for making these games and being another one of these games that I played this year, because it was a game of this year that I very much enjoyed and appreciate from the bottom of my heart. I'm trying to find a way to start this part of the video without sounding like a complete jerk, but it's really hard, okay? The Sonic Frontiers Final Horizon DLC is the most ambitious amalgamation that I have ever seen in a Sonic game to this point, because it's been almost a decade of not having anything interesting or something that would make me feel so conflicted. Well, actually, that's a lie. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a game that it's a DLC that I really enjoyed, because they took so many strides in trying to make things right and trying to move in a direction where they do not put themselves between, what am I saying? Trying to make things so generalized to an audience that they're not even going to pull in, versus ostracizing a lot of people who continue enjoying these games, but wish that they would allow themselves to be as creative and out there with their ideas like they used to be for, you know, basically I would say near the end of like 2000s, I guess, would be exactly what I would say. From anything from the end of the 2000s and then going backwards, always was creative, innovative, and then they got really safe during the 2010 to 2020 era, which you can definitely see, because you can look at almost all of that catalog and be like, there was definitely a shift in the company, wasn't there? But the Final Horizons DLC is really interesting, because I really liked it until I didn't like it. And not in a way that I'm like, I don't like it at all, but it's more like, oh, there were so many potentially cool things that they squandered at the last moment that made me enjoy it less. Certain instances where, again, I think most people can say this, and I can say it as well, I really wish Sega would not, the company at least, not the teams that are making the games, but the company itself would just, you know, put more effort into making sure that, you know, people enjoy their games and have fun with them first and foremost. But instead of trying to make it so streamlined and so, quote unquote, you know, open-ended for everybody to enjoy, because again, I think I enjoyed this DLC because when we got the return of characters like Amy, Knuckles, and Tails, even though they had a lot of broken movement and they were really good at traversing the islands and doing their respective like challenges or skipping them by knowing how to use their movement correctly, I think that's the point of Sonic games that I like. Using the movement and using the abilities that the characters have to be able to break open a game wide open, or finding new ways to use it so you can basically find new and creative ways to have fun with the characters. Me personally, and I'm saying this because I like the DLC, though there are some parts of it I don't like, I think that part of the DLC was really good. Having Sonic friends being reintroduced. Even with Sonic Dream Team that's coming out, as of this recording, it's November the 29th, and it's coming out in like 6 or 7 days. I'm very excited to see how that looks on Apple Arcade, even though I don't have an Apple device because you hate me, don't you, Sega? You said you wanted me to not be able to play this one, and I know, and I know, and I know. Before anybody gets at me for talking about that, I'm just going to say, I know that Apple Arcade put a lot of money into Sonic. That's what makes me mad, though, right? Because near the end of the Sonic Horizons final DLC, right? There were some things that they definitely did to make things challenging, but not in a fair or a fun way, which ultimately made me not enjoy it as much as I hope I would have. Shoutouts to fighting all 3 of the major bosses with a bad parry that you will never get to practice outside of this one DLC ever. I kind of am still taken aback by that because I ended up not streaming the finale of the game simply because I was so polarized by the fact that the hard difficulty was unfairly hard at that final stage of the game. And even fighting the final boss on that difficulty was almost kind of unfair in the same sense because, again, the window for parrying, for using the perfect parry, which, yes, was for the story purpose of making it look cool. Yes, I know. But to the point where it's now unfair and you have to now react in, time with animations that don't always line up to where you need to parry, or if you parry too soon, then you still get punished. A lot of these other things, yada yada and so forth. But all I'm going to say, for myself and for the people who are listening, I still love this DLC. There's just a few shortcomings that could have been fixed. Like, why was there lookout cocos that we could get randomly if you could play these cyberspace levels that are new and cool and really fun, by the way, even though I haven't played all of them myself. I think they're really cool and fun. And also, I really hope that if we're moving forward to making a new 3D Sonic game, I want it to be more arcadey and allow characters to be able to do what they did in this DLC. Like, Tails maybe doesn't need his, Tornado 2 to be so broken. That sure is a thing, but, making levels based around the characters' abilities and making them have obstacle courses or making them find different unique pathways to deal with certain problems is why we like the other characters in the Sonic series and the Sonic games. Sonic can be the main star of the show, yes, but it's also nice to have variations of playstyle that still fits that same mold of the philosophy of Sonic. And for me, I will say this, though, the final boss in the final Horizon DLC is really, really, really cool. I think it's genuinely cool, and it's the second thing that they've done with Super Sonic, because they haven't done anything with Super Sonic since Sonic Frontiers in like almost 7+ years. But that's why I'm saying, I'm like, at least they are making an attempt to go in a direction that actually allows them to realize, hey, maybe our games aren't selling as much. It wasn't because we were watering down everything to a perfect degree, but it's because we're putting way too many restrictions on things that probably shouldn't have been there in the first place, but because, people change companies and certain people who think that certain ideas are good versus what it was actually good for the series maybe just change over time. But yeah, I will say though that even though I don't have the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog on here because technically it's a visual novel and you don't technically play it as a video game the same way you would, with playing with buttons, action commands, all this other stuff. I will say this. I think that's the game of the year for Sonic for sure, because the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog is the nicest return to form for introducing characters in the Sonic universe and having fun with the Sonic franchise again. I very much appreciate a lot of that stuff that they did for that. And oh, excuse me, jeez. And I'm only adding this at the end here because I just want you guys to know I did enjoy Horizon's DLC. Though I really wish the Master Towers, for climbing up them with Sonic, weren't so brutal on hard mode. I wish that some of the challenges actually taught you how to do some of the mechanics that you're supposed to figure out how to do to beat some of them because they just kind of just throw you in there and you hope to do your best. And I'm glad that they think that they need to make more difficulty in Sonic bosses. But honestly, they should really reconsider what makes a Sonic boss fun in the first place, and not have to sit around and wait and not being able to play the game and make you very sad because you feel like you should be able to at least find some way to make it entertaining even when we're in the section where we're just waiting to hit a boss. But that's just me. That's just me. And this is also one last thing. This is the last thing for real this time. The Sonic Horizons DLC made me realize that I appreciate the bosses for every single area of the main game a lot more, because it was always supposed to be that when you get to the end of every island, it's supposed to be like this victory lap sequence, right? Where you get the cool boss fight where you fight them down and you feel really good about it. Because the opposite of what Horizon did is make me hate every one of the bosses, because now I had to replay them over and over to the point where I'm like, yeah. But Sonic Frontiers Final Horizon DLC has finally came to its conclusion, and as the sun sets on this little part of the Games of This Year video, will soon rise another game that's from the same universe that we'll be talking about next. So if Sonic Frontiers is the ambitious amalgamation, I would consider Sonic Superstars to be the showboaty superstars that kind of don't know when to quit, I guess is the best way and most polite way to put this. I enjoyed streaming the base game of Sonic Superstars, but I sure did not like the second half of Sonic Superstars that you will be seeing on screen right now. So let me just break it down to you. Sonic Superstars is a Genesis-style game that doesn't have the same charm as it would if it was a Genesis-style game. I will say that the art direction is whatever. It's not maybe my favorite thing, because again, we have a game called Sonic Mania, which took a lot of time and effort to make, and I'm not gonna say that this game didn't have a lot of time and effort to make. But there's the buts, right? I don't know if their QA told them a lot of the things that need to be ironed out. Probably they did, but that's also because, you know, Sega was trying to push a lot of things for Sonic this year, specifically in 2023. So maybe some things fell through the cracks, right? And they were focusing on certain aspects of the game that I could tell that they worked very hard on. But I think with the Sonic Horizons DLC, and now talking about this a little bit afterwards, I really dislike the back half of this game that is trying to be unfair challenging rather than fair challenging. To be fair, again, Sonic Superstars as a game, if you're playing it just to play the stages with the characters, is very fun. I think most of the bosses on, if you're playing the normal difficulty in the regular mode, is not that bad, because you have Chaos Emerald powers that can make it speed up by an exponential amount. But I feel like I shouldn't have to be talking about things like, hey, remember that one time that I accidentally got warped to the last level of the game, then to fall into a plane of existence that made me fall forever, because guess what? There was no way to get back to the area I was after going to the shop and getting taken out to a random place. Boy, I sure love when glitches happen in my Sonic games, right? And like I said, I don't think Superstars is all bad. They have good ideas and they have things that are really good. I do personally think that the single act zones are interesting, in my personal opinion, and I liked playing them. My favorite level in Sonic Superstars was probably level 9, and I believe level 6, it was the desert one with the snake gimmick where you walk on the snake that went all the way through the level. I think both of those gimmicks were actually kind of interesting. And the voxel style Sonic characters, you know, that took a lot of work and effort, and it was stylized. For me, I thought that was really cool. But I think the thing that actually gets me going, though, when I talk about Sonic Superstars, is that it's a $60 game. You can buy it on discount by the time you're probably listening to this in the future, but as of right now, as I was playing the game, and I finished the game, and I did everything in the story and got the true ending of the game, That was not how I felt like my $60 was going to go towards the game. Even the people at the GameStop I bought it for said, hey, if you buy this thing, you can come and trade it back for the other thing later. And I said, no, I should be fine. It's a Sonic game. How bad could it be? And I hate that I have to say Sonic Superstars, to me personally, was mediocre. Not because it's completely unredeemable, it's just because the fact of the matter is, Sonic Superstars ended up being a game that overstayed its welcome. And I don't like that. And it took sometimes too long to be able to enjoy yourself in the post-game. Especially the post-game. Because I'm showing you footage right now of some of the stuff that you get once you get past most of the stuff in the post-game. The trip story is really bad and not like Sonic Mania Encore mode, because I'll tell you this, at least Sonic Mania Encore mode may have different level layout and stuff, but it's not purposely there to make you mad or frustrated or to justify not having any lives in your video game because you're making it harder. Because I do appreciate that they took out the live system for something that, even though if you don't play the multiplayer of, you know, Sonic Superstars, at least there's something to do in your meantime if you want to keep going back to the stages and replaying them. Minus playing the bosses, of course. But, you know, I was just thinking to myself as I was, you know, getting ready to record this, what really would have made Sonic Superstars better, in my opinion, and it's only one thing, why did the bosses have to have so many hits? And why did the level design have to be so rude? A lot of these things are baffling to me because, like I said, if you've seen the highlight video, I could tell you guys all my baffling thoughts on it during that highlight video where I did that 5-hour stream where I played through all of the game and even played some of the extra bonus stuff. And I was like, I tried and I really liked most of the game, but the things that stood out and that made me not like the game really stood out and made me not like the game. Like, there are certain things where I'm like, oh, if they only took a little bit more time and they didn't have to rush things, I think it would have been fine. And I know that Sega has, at this point, made a statement that said, hey, we're tired of not trying to compete with Mario, and we've kind of gotten complacent, so we're going to try to do better in the future and give the games more money. And I think with the Apple Arcade game that came out, or, yeah, I guess by the time this recording comes out, it has come out, I think is really showing that I think Sonic Dream Team honestly is the new way I want to see Sega. I want them to look and make things that are cool again. You know how strange it is for me to say this, that this is Sonic Dream Team is the only Sonic game in the past almost decade that we've actually had an opening intro for, minus Sonic Mania, I suppose. And I'm like, that's kind of insane to me that we haven't had a 3D Sonic game that had a opening. That's insane to me. And I don't count any of the remakes of other 3D Sonic games. I'm just talking about a 3D Sonic game. Like, Sonic Frontiers didn't have one. I was baffled by that. Like, most of the Sonic games don't have that sort of style and personality that they used to have, and I really hope that it gets back on track, because, to be fair, I still think Sonic Superstars could have been a better game, but I do like Trip as a character. She had a very fun gimmick of mixing Knuckles, Amy, and, you know, Tails' ability to fly, but also infinitely when you have the Chaos Emeralds. And, you know, the fact that, you know, that was a cool character that they added. Don't know if they're going to keep reusing the idea, because, once again, Sega sometimes is very scared of reusing ideas. So they always try to reinvent the wheel when I'm like, brother, you already have a hedgehog who can turn into a circle. No need to keep changing it, you know? And I know this turned in more into a rant about me in Sonic Superstars than more than anything. But I do want you guys to know that I'm like, I still enjoyed the game for what it was. And, you know, even if the final boss for Trip's story was absolutely obnoxious, and also the final boss was a final boss that I'm like, it's more just about being patient. And in the Sonic game, I hate being patient because I think that there should be something for me to do, you know, instead of just worrying about getting hit and being like, wow, I got inconvenience for like 5 seconds. How cool. But, you know, Sonic Superstars, even if I don't think it lives up to the name Superstars, I do still think that Sonic and Friends made a very fun game, even though I don't think multiplayer is very great for a Sonic game. Hey, listen, Sega, just do this what they did with, you know, Mario Wonder, and just make your friends or allies ghosts and just make it online centric. Just do that. Literally, that will solve all the issues that you had with Sonic Superstars. Literally. Just make the multiplayer online where people can't interact, but they can still like emote and stuff, and you'll be fine. That's literally 100% my only thing I can say to you. Because if you want to do that, either you have to make it everybody has their own screen that they can look at, or like I said, online only, with being able to just see people play for the level. That's all I'm gonna say. But anyways, that was me talking about Sonic Superstars. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk, and I will catch you guys for the next game of this year. Super Mario Wonder is a game that I definitely played this year that I kind of forgot that I kind of played when a large group of games came out. Again, I can't really fault the game for that, but I'm just saying that Super Mario Wonder is a really wonderful game. That joke has been made so many times, in fact, that now you get tired of hearing it. But seriously, it's a joy. It's exciting. It's, you know, it makes you enthusiastic, because even though I'm showing you gameplay of probably maybe some of my streams, or maybe I went back and played it for a little bit, Super Mario Wonder, I think, is a really great stepping stone in the right direction for Super Mario games in general. The 2D formula of Super Mario, or the new Super Mario games we call them, because they weren't really that new, they were just, hey, we're saying it's new by saying we got new levels, and I'm like, okay, but it's still the same engine, and it's like, don't worry about that, has changed to now actually have a distinct art style, a distinct, you know, vivid, like, imagery, and like an actual purpose to why they are making the levels. Mario Wonder is the only 2D Mario game in like the past 2 decades, I think, that has an actual story outside of like 3D Mario games, and I think that in itself is a big tell of why I think Mario Wonder is even on this list to begin with, right? Everybody who's talked about this, and if you're looking towards Game of the Year this upcoming year, just to look at like the nominations of Game of the Year from, you know, well, I guess in this case it was previously on the 7th of December, it's no wonder that it got nominated for a Game of the Year spot, because it is the most revolutionary Mario game that we've had in a little while to increase the 2D side of Mario and like give it new life, personality, and actually added characters. No longer do you just play as Mario, Luigi, and 2 different color Toads. No, actually you play as Mario, Luigi, 2 different colored Toads, Peach, Daisy, Toadette, and even any of the colored Yoshis and a Nabbit. Like, I don't know if you know this, but they actually are utilizing the fact that they have more characters and people that they could use for their IP, and it's like crazy how I just have to say that, because it's like, it took way too long, I feel like. But I'm happy that Mario Wonder exists, because it is a game that kind of changed a lot of perspective for me. It's a platformer game that technically is a single-player adventure, but you can play it multiplayer with people online with using Ghost and having them emote and show up in your game, and then you can help them, teach them where secrets are, or you can learn from them and find where secrets are. Stuff like that is really cool. Stuff like that is really cool. I know I just had to reiterate it twice, but it is extremely cool and gratifying to finally play a Mario game that actually feels like every single moment during my time playing the game felt fun and new and refreshing, because I don't feel, and even if there were like repeating ideas, they always cranked it up in a different way to make it interesting. That being said, as I'm talking about Super Mario Wonder, there is some things that I still think that are a little bit of a problem with, you know, the Super Mario Brothers series in general, which is sometimes they really hold back on trying to make difficult levels or levels that challenge you. I think there's only like maybe a handful of levels in the entire game of Super Mario Wonder that are like, I would consider very difficult for people to not be able to beat. But I mean, or may have a struggle with and need extra help to beat. But again, they have easy mode characters, so I don't understand why they still don't have the need to like make, you know, a little bit of more difficult levels. But either way, it doesn't really retract from how much fun you have. It's just a thing that you start noticing the more you play these games, because again, Like I said, if you've played a Mario game, you've played a Mario game. It's not gonna completely change your mind on the fact that if you looked at Mario Wonder and you said, do I really need to buy it for the full $60 price? You probably won't. But the amount of fun you can have with it and the endless possibilities that you can do once you beat the main game and then go back and try to do different things is really astonishing, because one of the things that they added is a badge system. Now, I'm not going to tell you this because I'm trying to be hyperbole, or try to make hyperboles, but this is basically the equivalent of, you know, going from Mario and Luigi and going to Paper Mario and seeing that, oh yeah, you know, instead of unlocking or just gaining abilities through power-ups, you actually have a dedicated thing that actually changes how you would interact with certain stages by just equipping one thing. That's it. If you play Paper Mario, if you equip one different badge, that means you have one new different option during a battle. And it makes a whole world of a difference of how you would go through and play that thing. I will say that the badge system in this game was probably the coolest thing that, and at some point gets underutilized a lot because, okay, I will explain this. The parachute cap is probably the best, in my opinion, like when it comes to badges, because it can do almost everything that you need it to do and more. You can get infinite wall jumps instead of using the double jump wall jump badge. You can basically get any, as long as there's a wall, you can get any elevation you need, as long as you time it properly and you continue to go upwards. Being able to glide over a set amount of distance so you can make gaps or jumps that you wouldn't be able to make regularly is really nice. And also just due to the fact that it usually keeps a good amount of your momentum is also really nice. But the only reason that I'm bringing up the badge system gets kind of underutilized at some point is because certain badges like Dolphin Kick, for example. I hate to break it to you guys, but did you know there was only like 4 dedicated water levels where you could even use that badge? I'm not counting the one where you unlock it and the extra challenge one. I'm just saying there's 4 levels in the entire game that actually use that badge. And then it's like, well, it definitely sat in my inventory for the rest of the time. Yep. And like, there's stuff like that that's kind of inevitable when creating a game like this, because if you have so many options, some options get left in the dust, especially when it comes to trying to design levels that are both fun and interesting and have different gimmicks every time, but without having to rely on, oh, you need this badge to complete this, or you need this to complete this, because they keep it as open-ended as possible. And I do feel like they did extend a little bit with the badge system, because at the end of the game you kind of end up getting a lot of badges that are like, they're okay, they're not the worst, but I'm like, you definitely wouldn't want to use them over like having different movement or ways to traverse the stage, rather than, oh, you enter a stage with a power-up, oh, you enter a stage and now only you see a certain type of power-up, oh wow, you do this and that and now the other thing. Like, the most interesting badges, I guess, for me are the ones that actually completely changed up the way that the game played. Like, the auto run badge, I call, or the uncapped speed badge, where you just continuously run one direction, and all you can do is jump, and like maybe extend your jumps by holding it, and that's it. And you continuously run until you hit a wall. That one's cool. Invisibility, really underutilized, and most people won't use it, but you know, it's a good challenge one if you want to go back and challenge yourself on certain levels by completing them completely invisible. That's super cool. And the continuous jump, you know, the same reason or the same interesting gimmick like the run. It's just you continuously jumping and having to now plan out your jumps. Even though you get a higher jump, you now have to plan where you pick your times to jump, or if you're trying to dodge certain obstacles that would be something you could crouch under, now you have to think about how you can time your jump to not get hit. All in all, I would like to say Super Mario Wonder is a wonderful game. You can probably beat it in about a day and a half, maybe 2, if you really sat down and just wanted to play through each of the levels. I beat the game by playing every single level and getting every single Wonder Seed. I did not go back and 100% the game, because it's a little bit toxic when it comes to like beating every single aspect of the game. But I will probably go back and do that at some point, because I still have the game, obviously. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. And like I said, it made a lot of strides in a lot of things that I didn't know that I wanted from a Super Mario Brothers game, and made them into reality. The wonder effects I didn't even talk about, but I think it's because there's so many of them that you will experience if you decide to play this game that I don't feel like they're even worth talking about, because I think if you've seen them already, they're pretty cool. Of course, my favorite, though, if I do have to say what my favorite wonder effects in the game are, basically anything that had to do with music, or timing your gameplay to the music, because I think that was actually the most interesting and most fun gimmicks for me, because it just was, hey, this is just, we get good music, and we get to play a stage while listening to really cool or good music, so. And like I said, everything in the games are cool. The art style, the direction that they took for stages, combining elements from old games, and giving them a new type of flair and flavor, all of it immaculate. And that is why Super Mario Wonder is one of the games of this year that I will always appreciate and I'll like. And even if I don't come back to it every single waking moment of every day for the now and the next little while, it's still going to be a fun 2D Mario game that I can say that I now have in my collection. And for now, until, you know, the Switch either gets outrolled or gets something new and exciting coming out. So, yeah. If you definitely have the time or the money or wish to just play a really fun and memorizing game, play Mario Wonder. It's excellent. So, Rune Factory 3 Special Edition is a game that I have played and that I enjoyed and that I put probably about 40 to 50 hours into before completing the game. And once again, I'm not surprised to say this as one of the games that I played this year, that it was extremely fun. Rune Factory as a series is not anything new to my channel. If you've seen me play Rune Factory 5 or any of my Rune Factory 4 tips and tricks videos and then seen any of my content on Rune Factory 3, I think Marvelous's Rune Factory content is really fun and really enjoyable. It's a top-down, most of the time it's a top-down asymmetrical game where you walk around and you do farming stuff, build bonds with people within the game to have deeper and more meaningful connections to the characters, and you're using magic spells and really big weapons to destroy enemies. It's basically like a super game that I'm like, wow, I'm surprised that this exists and I enjoy it. 3 is, of course, as you would think, the third game in the series, but not really because of other things, but we aren't going to talk about that. But Rune Factory 3 Special came out on the Switch recently, and I enjoyed it immensely. To the point where I basically made content on it, talking about the stuff I like about it, talking about the things that they changed from 3 going on to 4 and 5, things that I like, some things that I wish, you know, got kind of brought over from that original game. And overall, I think it's a really fun game. Again, a lot of things are in this game that I guess we can talk about as we go along here, because talking about Rune Factory 3 feels like it's a fever dream because I played it and beat it within a month. It's not a relatively long game, and honestly, I could have beaten it with less time, but, you know, playing it on the hardest difficulty, trying to allow myself to try to figure out how the systems and mechanics work comparatively to the other 2 games was my more of my focus than just trying to see the ending. So basically, if we wanted to talk about a little bit of the plot and synopsis, Rune Factory 3 is a game where you end up randomly spawning into a village as a sheep, and you make these really cute and funny sounds that make me laugh every time I think about that game and being like, yeah, they really did make a human person sound like a sheep. And then when you wake up, you basically get given a home because, unlike real life, you're actually given space and given a place if you go to a remote place in the middle of nowheres. And then just told, do agriculture, dummy, or die. And then it's like, okay. Most of the story and gameplay is revolved around the 4 different areas, which are all based off of different seasons. A spring area, a summer area, a fall area, and the winter area. All 4 of these places have bosses in them that you slowly start regaining your memories, as it then ties into the plot that one of the main reasons why you are the character that you are in this game is because of actual story significance. In Rune Factory 4 and 5, there's not really much context for why you are there or your character as a whole. They're just kind of a stand-in for you, and then they are given purpose by existing in that world. Where I feel like 3, I understand exactly why they didn't make it for, in Special Edition at least, why you can't actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Why you can't go and play the role of the female, especially because Rune Factory 3 was centralized around making a main lead? That sounded weird. Making a male protagonist be the lead of this game, because you can tell by the marriage selection in this game being all females, and all of them being, like, quite extensive in how many you can have. Like, there's, like, I think 10... If it's not 10, it's like 8 romance options, and that's a lot. All things considering, because it seems like almost every female character in this game was, like, probably meant to be somebody that you could be a romantic partner with if you wanted to in this game. And all the character writing in this game is superb, honestly. And the comedy in it is very good. I guess it's nothing new for Rune Factory in general to have that. I feel like 5 maybe right now, out of all of them that I played, is probably the weakest when it comes to that. But I can't say that I don't like the characters and stuff. It's just that after playing 3, I definitely see how much fun that they had with the third game. Because I guess when you focus on just core aspects of certain characters, you kind of learn to appreciate them, or, you know, end up falling in love with them, basically. And which basically, one of the really big things that I do like about 3 as a game, compared to 4 and 5, the narrative weaves itself very well together with the actual ideas that they want to do for the actual story, which is getting past prejudice and being able to live in co-harmony with, you know, monsters. The whole thing about this game is that you're playing as a part human, part monster. And that basically comes with its own twists and turns. And even when you beat the game, it has one last thing to challenge you in its quote-unquote post-game, but I just call it the second arc of the game, because that's basically what it is. Where you go and rescue the person that you decide to marry in the game, and that ends off the game, with then you getting married, and it showing that entire sequence. And for me, I think that kind of states how much I think about and like 3, because I'm recording this on the 6th of December, wanting to give myself a chance to really think about this game and how much I liked it. I liked it a whole lot. Like I said, like, playing through that game and beating it before the winter month also is, like, something that I've been realizing I've been really enjoying doing with Rune Factory games. Being like, how much can I optimize my time to be able to enjoy so much of the game, but also feeling like I don't have to rush, but I can take my time in a way where, because I start understanding how each Rune Factory game wants itself to be carried out or played, or what it adds with features or has not have with features, you learn how to adapt to and just enjoy. Honestly, if I was to be honest, either I would recommend Rune Factory 3 or Rune Factory 4 now as a game. If you're interested in this game or interested in any of the gameplay that you've seen on my channel through my What I'm Talking About series, or if you're watching this final Games of this Year video, I highly recommend it. You can download it off of the eShop for, I think I don't know if it went down in price recently or not, but it's relatively cheap. I think it's like $40 or $50, I believe. This isn't counting Canadian. I'm just saying at a rough price estimate. You're paying close to a full price game, but I think it's worth it because you're going to get at least 20 to 40 hours in this game if you're playing at the casual level. And there's a lot of stuff that you unlock as you play stuff. And because it's the special edition of a Rune Factory game, they added a newlywed mode, which is basically a new game plus extra. I call it that because it's like, you technically keep a lot of the stuff that you get for the main game, and you get to now experience different things based on certain character stuff, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I guess that's going to be it for me talking about Rune Factory 3. It's a wonderful game that I definitely do think that if you're interested in the genre of things like Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon or any of these types of games that are relaxing, but you can take your own pace and have your own fun with it and make your own fun with it, I definitely think that this is a game to check out, and it is why it is one of my many games of this year. In the depths of a lot of darkness holds a lot of silence. And that silence usually carries out some sort of anxiety and some sort of isolation that makes you feel suffocated, sometimes even lost. But in this game, a lot of the silence brings about a new, different type of hope. A small shimmering light, 7 of them to be exact, that will guide you through a path to allow you to experience a new wonderful world that allows you to allow yourself to forgive and be able to transcend past your own doubts and sadness to create something new. So, talking about Silent Hope is very interesting because this is a game made by the same developers who made Rune Factory, and it tells with a lot of the character models and the way that they designed the game that, yes, this is very much still the cast of Marvelous creating a video game world, which I enjoy. Now, talking about this game, I beat it around, I think, near the end of October. I beat it around the time of the end of October, and to be honest, it wasn't a game that I wanted to take my time with, not because I didn't like it, per se. It's more just the fact that there was so much of the game, and I'll be honest, before we even continue on anything, there is a post-game to this game that automatically makes me love it even more, and wish I got to play more of it before we got to the point where I'm recording this. Again, I'm recording this around the same time I'm recording the section for Rune Factory 3, but now that I've taken more time to sit around it, I wanted to talk about basically the game in general. Because if you see any of this footage that I'm showing you on stream, or this video I suppose, and you're interested in it, by all means, please go ahead and buy this game. I will say it's a full retail game, so if it doesn't look like it's captivating you that much, you can wait for a price drop. Marvelous games usually do have a price drop on the eShop, usually every, couple of months, or not, if not a little bit less. But these games are really worth the money because I feel like they have a fundamental thing where they always build, or always have the idea of wanting to replay or experience new content in your game by, after you beat the main game, they always give you plenty of stuff to do afterwards. And Silent Hope is no different. Silent Hope is a top-down asymmetric game, or I guess I like to call it like, a Dungeon Crawler type feel game where basically you pick from one of these 7 characters that you start off with after watching the intro animation that you can select from the main menu, and you just go ahead and go dungeon crawling. It's basically it. The big caveat of this game is just you're going down to this abyss and just trying to experience and try to figure out why the world lost its voice, why the world became so silent. But it's always accompanied by our main female lead talking to us and giving us narration for everything that's going on. And as our characters may only be able to grunt and just do that, still able to be lively in a way, where it's like, even though that most of the game is captured by one person's voice, you still feel the personality or the energy that every character is giving off just through this for one person's narration, which is really interesting because, like I said, this game is focused on story in ways that it's, after you beat the boss of each area, which there are several, it gives you a little bit of a tidbit of why the things that are happening have happened. And she, as well, our narrator and our guide for us getting deeper into the depths, explains certain things or what happened before all of this transpired and giving our heroes a reason to keep pushing forward. The gameplay is very simplistic, where it's more like Diablo, where you kind of have like a basic attack and then like 2 skills, maybe 3, depending on whether you want to have all those equipped. It's more recommended to have 3 because by the time you have all 3 of your skills unlocked, you now have cooldowns you worry about, while also maintaining a good flow of trying to make large combos to gain more XP, so you can keep beating on enemies harder and being able to get further down. Now, in this game, I would like to say that even though the gameplay is very simplistic, there is a lot of strategy to be had with items and armor and customization. Because, again, this game is randomly I wouldn't say randomly procedurally generated, but I would say that finding loot and finding new upgraded gear will probably take time because you need to probably use characters with certain abilities to find rare treasures, or go back to stages and play some of the challenge gates that have opened up there that sometimes will give you a challenge to fight a lot of strong enemies to get better rewards. All of this basically intermingling to make a very pleasant and very chill experience. I would say that it's basically, this was my comfort game for this year. That would be on the equivalent of how I felt last year about playing the Voice of Cards trilogy, where it's a game where you can definitely just sit down and play it for a couple of hours, not realizing that you just played it for a couple of hours, made quite a bunch of progress, and just do the motions of going through a stage, beating a bunch of people, you know, leveling up your gear and making yourself feel super strong so you can then go back to a stage that you already went to and like one-shot everything. And it feels really good because the leveling system also scales to actual EXP instead of doing the thing where it's like, oh no, every parameter is generally made so you have to start from ground zero if you want to level somebody up. It actually is really good because if you have really strong equipment for a character, even if you didn't play them, they can probably catch up in levels and like level up 4 to 5 times at a time because of the fact that they are still fighting enemies that give them a large amount of experience. Not, hey, because you defeated X amount of enemies, now you get a level up. It's more actually based on if you're in a stronger area, you're going to get more EXP, which you're going to level up more times. Which I think the really strong part about Silent Hope for me is that even though you may not play every character in the game, it's fun to experiment and try each character of the game. It ended up being that I started with the Alchemist class until he evolved, and then I tried like 5 other classes, and I would like to say that if I had to order all of the classes that I liked in a specific order, it was the Alchemist / the Mage class, then I would say it was the Thief class once I unlocked a certain skill. Farmer was also really good, and also the only reason why I was able to beat the final run of the final boss the way I did, because man, being able to heal yourself during a boss battle was kind of broken. Then also the Archer / Ranger was really fun, and then I think I didn't mind like some of the other classes like Warrior, which is the basic class where it's the shield and the sword class, and the Brute, and I believe there's another class that I'm missing, and the fist fighting class, but they're kind of like there because they're like extra specialty ones that are kind of fun, but you really do need to work on making sure those guys' equipment are very up to date, because their niches are usually trying to either play extra defensively or super offensively, which if you don't have a good mix of both for your characters, it gets a little bit difficult. But I think the thing I really appreciate about this game, which I'm going to now spoil, so again, if you've been listening to all of these Game of the Year stuff, you know I'm not really holding back anything, I'm just talking about everything in general. But this is like a somewhat big spoiler, I guess, but it's not really, because you expect this to happen after you beat the game for the first time. Every character gets voice actors after you beat the game, because that's the whole point of the game, to get the lost voices back. And then when you do, it's like, oh, and each character's personality now shines, and then there's post-game that opens up that like, the sad thing about this, me talking about this game in general, is that I didn't get to play all of it. Like, there was a hard mode that unlocked, there was an extra story campaign that unlocks after that to get one last thing so you can get all of your characters to their final class. And I'm hoping that during the next couple of months, because now that I'm winding down for the year and basically beat every single game that I wanted to beat this year, I'm going to be able to go back to that and enjoy some more Silent Hope, because honestly, it's a game that I genuinely think, even though it didn't do something that was super spectacular or new, it was able to be a new, fresh take on the systems and ideas that they had for Marvelous, at least for that company, because I think it was an enjoyable experience that I wouldn't mind seeing them try to delve into again. But, you know, even if it was small, and even if it was silent, that hope grew for more games for just being more enjoyable like that. And that's how I feel as we go to the next game of this year. Star Ocean Second Story R. What an immaculate super game that was born way past the time that it should have been. Like, it was created in the past for this future moment for when I start playing the Star Ocean series. I am actually taken aback that this game exists, that this series existed, and that it was hidden from me for this long. Now, that all being said, hey everybody, to the part of the Game of the Year Game of this Year video. I almost called it the awards. I'm not giving any awards. Everybody that's here is already getting a reward by me basically gushing about it for a long period of time. So, why did nobody tell me that the Star Ocean games were this fun and broken and completely out? They're super nonsensically fun. I don't know how to explain it in any other way other than saying that. But as of this recording, I beat it like about a week and a half ago, if not even more. But I just kind of sat down and I beat it, and I was like, wow, what a game. What a good game that was created like almost 2 decades ago that got reported, repolished sprites and models and extra voice acting. It is like absolutely amazing. I don't know how to word it any other way. Star Ocean's Second Story R feels like, well, first of all, the title is a little bit long and I keep messing it up. But 2, shouldn't even exist as a game right now, because when I play that game, it makes most modern video games look like they're chumps and they don't know what they're doing. I'm sorry if I have to say it like that, but how do you create an immaculate super game as your second title in your series and then nobody know about it? That's why I'm insane. That's why I'm losing my mind recording this right now. It's almost like 7 p.m. at evening as I'm thinking about doing this recording, and I'm just thinking about every integral thing about the game that I love and that I care about. So, I guess I'll take a deep breath. Exhale. Whew. Okay, before I go any further, we're going to be talking about everything about this game that I wanted to talk about. So, first of all, characters in this game. Immaculate. There are, like, at least 12 playable characters in this game, and depending on what characters you take with you, or when you recruit certain characters, you actually get locked in or locked out of certain characters you can actually get, which, first of all, since this game came out almost 2 decades ago, it's kind of insane that they had something like that in the works, where it's like, oh, if you have scripting for a character that you get, you now no longer have the scripting for other characters because you have this character in your party. That's insane. That's incredible. But like, yo, how do you do this? Then, not even talking about that, but also, let me just talk to you a little bit about what I like to call the gameplay. So, in this game, there's 2 different types of styles. There's spellcaster style and the martial arts style. I call it that way because in this game, if you're planning on picking it up, if you decide to play this game, you're going to need to know that depending on who you start with, you're going to have one style that you're primarily going to be more used to. For me, I chose Rena rather than Claude C. Kenny because I just decided, you know, the elf girl was the one that I was probably going to like, and using a spellcaster in this game is really fun. But multi, you may be asking, how could using a spellcaster in any sort of game be really fun? Every time you use a spellcaster, you're slow, you can't do anything, and you kind of just left open. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, there are systems in Star Ocean Second Story R that allow you to play a spellcaster as the most spammy and cheap. Like, imagine a boss, okay, in a video game where it has abilities to, like, spam and do really dirty stuff to you, like, the entire time, but they just don't choose to. And then you just imagine you as a person playing that character being able to do that and not caring about the enemy's feelings and just making them really want to weep and cry. Full disclaimer, I did beat most of this game, no, all of this game in universal difficulty until the last 5 hours of the game because they did not scale it properly, in my opinion, for the last, like, final fights in the game, because I really think that Star Ocean, the Second Story R, is a really good game, but it has its flaws when it comes to how if you're playing on universe difficulty, it scales it for a first-time player being so unreasonably hard that I was just like, nah, I'll go to Galaxy difficulty now and beat the game because it's more reasonable now. But, again, like I said, I played at least 90% of the game on the hardest difficulty because I just wanted to learn and become better at the game. It kind of reminds me a lot about how, you know, there's another game series called the Tales of series, where it's basically a arena fighter where basically you have 3-dimensional space you can walk around in and then do moves and combos to enemies, and the whole thing is trying to do a lot of large combos without getting hit so you can continue up the damage without letting the enemy get the play. I feel like this game is the only one of those that I've ever enjoyed, and compliments to the staff who ever created this game all those years ago, and who created the remake. It made it so much fun to just play and try every character, and make me want to figure out how to make every character work in this game. Genuinely speaking, though, if you were asking me on a very interpersonal level how I feel now that I've beaten Star Story R, I really wish that there was more mechanic like this in other video games. So let me break down one big aspect, which I'm gonna tell you. Your characters are super customizable in this game. Like, to the point where if you hate RPGs and you want to just mash buttons, like a certain game that came and got nominated for Game of RPG of the Year, which it shouldn't have, and I'm not gonna say what it is, because you already know what it is. I think this game is immaculate because it allows you to basically create your characters in any way, shape, or form you would like to build them in. Even though they have a base stats and actual combat identity that they already have for themselves, depending on your abilities that you learn by leveling them up, you can still make your characters into like anything you want. All of your characters can learn sub-traits, which basically allow you to break the game. Hey, was there an item or items that you liked and that you wish you could get multiple of without having to spend money in the game? Learn an ability to replicate an item perfectly and then have multiple of them. Never run out of healing items, never run out of revival items, never run out of anything. Hey, do you want to be broken in a battle and be able to spam items and hit all of your teammates? In this game, you have formations that allow you, that if you have enough of your little boost gauge on the bottom right of the screen, if you have that maxed out, you can literally just spam items. You can just spam items or get other beneficial effects, like have super armor, don't waste any items when you use them, basically just become like super mega overpowered and just enjoy the game. Like, there are so much things that I cannot talk about in this one video, or this one section of this video, that would do it justice. You literally just need to play the demo. And with that being said, I believe if you play on the PlayStation or the Nintendo Switch, I don't know if on PC, but you can play like the first, I think, section or arc in the game. No, not arc. Okay, let me rewind. Like the first beginning chapters of the game, which is like, I think up until you reach the first major town of the game, like very big major area where you get like, you can get your third character, and that's pretty cool. That's a very good chunk of the game that you'll start understanding and really start to like and reflect. Equipment matters in this game, and all of these extra boosted traits and skills that you can give to your characters make this game really fun to like experiment with. And if that doesn't sell you on this game, this is maybe a $60 game, but there's more than $60 worth of content in this game. This game was originally a 2-disc game, so when I said the first arc, I literally mean the first arc. There are 2 arcs to this game, which I'm not going to spoil, even though I could spoil them, I'm not going to, but just to let you know, there is a second arc in this game and a post-game, and there's 99 endings. Let me repeat that to you. There is 99 endings in this game that you can get if you want to keep replaying the game and trying to learn and see different endings for different characters and different group of characters, because there's an affection system that also is in this game. Like, Star Ocean Second Story R is a video game that got gypped out of this Game of the Year that came out for the Game Awards, and honestly, I'm so mad that it lost to Final Fantasy 16, because yeah, I'm saying it, I don't think Final Fantasy 16 deserved it. Listen, it may be a beautiful game, but it doesn't have and operate on the same gameplay level as a game that came out 2 decades ago. And that's really what it boils down to for why I'm putting this on my list. Because I have never played a JRPG that genuinely just made me feel like breaking the game was the reason why they made the game. They wanted you to have so much fun experimenting, trying new things, allowing yourself to try playing the game in so many different ways and fashion that I just fell in love with it. And that is why it is on here for one of my games of this year, but only loses to another game that I can't believe is real and was the perfect sequel that came out. in 2023. And alas, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived. Gosh, there were so many games that we played and talked about over this entirety of this video. But who knew that my favorite game that came out this year would have been a sequel to a game that I played back in 2018 that made me realize that there were so many RPGs from earlier days that I wish that I got to experience that I never got to, but now I have a modern version of that in the palm of my hands. Octopath Travelers originally came out in 2018, and I really enjoyed the world building and the characters in that game. But then they somehow made a perfect sequel that now I am screaming about to you, being like, this should have been the JRPG of the year, in my opinion. The game of this year for me is literally this game. Just like how Xenoblade Chronicles 3 the previous year was my JRPG or my game of that year, Octopath Traveler 2 did everything that I wanted for a sequel of that game to do, and basically blew my expectations out of the water, like twofold, threefold, fourfold, I would say eightfold, but that's cliche. And like, right now I'm talking to you after just talking about Star Ocean Second Story R. And both of those games were very high on my list of like, this is the game that I played this year that I would be like, yeah, this is peak gaming. Both of these are really good. And the only reason why Octopath Traveler 2 won out is because literally every time I think about the fact I played that game this year, it makes me start gushing about how much I like the game over and over again. So to catch people up to speed for how Octopath Traveler and why I'm gushing about this game is the way it is, I would like to tell you that basically you play as 8 individual characters that all have their own story arcs, that have their own stories and reasons for being on this adventure that you eventually recruit and have to your teams by the time you beat the game. And that's basically the premise of the game. Each of them have their own narratives woven into them and why they have their own adventure. Each of them having a spectacular class, being pulled from all of the JRPG classes that are classic. Like we have, for example, we have Dancer, we have a Merchant, we have the titular Warrior class, we have, you know, our Mage or Alchemist, I guess, archetype in this game, Thief, Hunter/Huntress, Apothecary, and some other classes you can unlock. I also know that there's a cleric, and I didn't say that, but just bear with me. There's a lot to talk about with this game, and this is probably going to be the longest section in this video. And I'm recording this the same day as I recorded Star Ocean R, because again, like I said, both of these games are kind of immaculate. So before we even begin, I would like to say that this game is very well balanced. And I say that in retrospect because in the first game, I felt like there were some bosses or some enemy types that you could run into that make you feel like, okay, this is a little bit unfair, and it's a little bit annoying, because this RPG does take almost every classic beat-from-beat RPG trope, like random encounters being a thing, so there's no way to turn them off. But, you know, that's a little bit annoying, but, you know, in this game especially, there are tools that they give you that they did not give you in the first game that make battles go way quicker, which we'll talk about later. But the gameplay is turn-based RPG, where all of your characters usually get to take their turn before the enemy, but they have an active time scale on the top of the screen that shows you the turn order. But what if I told you in this game in particular, they had a really cool way to like circumvent that stuff, because if you pay more attention to like different types of moves or attributes that your characters have when making a team composition, stuff like that doesn't matter. You can make it so enemies all act at the end of the turn or act before you. You can make it so that they can never have a turn by having the break system back from the original Bravely Default. Did I say Bravely Default? My bad. I meant Octopath Traveler. Let's not talk about mid. And yes, I'm calling Bravely Default 2 mid because I wanted to play that game the other year and I'm glad I didn't. Anyways, after that side tangent, The break system that's in Octopath Traveler 2 is really, really sick. So basically, if you want to get the most amount of damage or stuff, or like be able to keep an enemy from not being able to act, you break them by hitting their weaknesses and exploiting their weaknesses. Now, the great thing about the weakness system in this game is that it usually makes it so every single class has at least something to be able to contribute to a battle. There's some times when you play RPGs or things where certain characters kind of get left in the dust because either they have moves that are too slow, or attack patterns that, or attacks that don't do that much, or just have one a hyper-specific role and they can't do anything else. But with Octopath Traveler, and the way that you learn classes and the way that you grow your characters in these games, allow you to be able to mix and match all kinds of combinations that become really deadly, and allow you to be hyper fixated on either doing damage, support, or defense. And all of those combined with having 4 party members on your team, being able to kind of just open up a boss or open up a can of, pardon my French, a can of whoop ass, you know, is really fun to do in this game. Now for me, I'm going to talk a little bit about the character I played throughout my whole run of the game. Her name is Agnia, and she is the dancer. So, for me talking about this game, I basically chose what the class I decided that character I liked, or I probably would have liked the most, and Agnia is really cool. She is the dancer type that you're usually known for, usually having buffs, debuffs, and stuff. But in this game in particular, they gave Dancer such an amazing move that made me go, that's stupid. I'm so glad I chose this class. That I basically... Well, first of all, when you start the game, whatever character you start off with, you can't take off of until you beat their final story chapter, which is fine, because I wasn't going to take my girl out of the whole group or team dynamic anyways, because I liked her too much. But Agnia, again, has one of the most heartwarming stories in the entire game, because most of her thing is just traveling around and trying to find her own way to be able to bring hope and to bring inspiration to other people in her story. Which, for me, with Octopath Traveler 2, I would like to say that me beating that game and having that ending that you get, and having it be a lot more fulfilling because I played as her, made me enjoy the ending of that game like 10 times more than I think most people did. For me, at least, playing through Agnia's story basically gave me a real big reflection of like the entire journey, just like her. Her whole thing was just journeying around and just trying to help and make people smile and enjoy life, because in the world of Octopath, there's a lot of things that go down and a lot of bad people in the world, but she just simply wants to dance and make people smile and make people happy, just like her mother once did for so many people until she passed. Coming down to the final bit of her story, at least, and which the only character I'll talk about, is that eventually she comes to an impasse with another character who wants to be famous for the opposite reason, because she feels like she was owed it, or she felt like if she couldn't shine like a star, she couldn't be loved or appreciated. Unlike your girl, who was loved and appreciated by everybody she met, and leading up until the ending of her campaign, basically then found the value of why she dances. Is for the people that she met along the way, the love that she was given when she was a young child, and then showing that off and giving it to everybody to show that no matter how tough and hard things get, we can be able to proceed with life knowing that we're not alone and we can continue to grow together. Which is a wonderful story piece for this game. And honestly, the overarching stories for all of the characters actually have a satisfying and 100% better ending than I feel like the original game did. Because the thing is, with the original game of Octopath Traveler, you don't get an actual conclusive ending unless you beat the secret boss in the ending of the game. In the post-game, at least. So, I didn't get that on my original playthrough. I got to see the ending cutscene, but I didn't get to, do that because, again, that secret boss and everything prerequisite you have to do to get to the secret boss is very hard. And in this game, it has its fair share of secret bosses and hard and really cool secrets that you have to go out of your way to get. Which, in my playthrough, admittedly, I put like, I think 100 and something hours into the game, and I didn't do everything, and I didn't get the chance to go back because By the time I finished that game, I was in the gauntlet of now all the games that came out this year. But the gameplay is so refreshed because of the new system of adding special or limit breaks for every character, allowing them to have one more extra tool that allows them to be really good. And for the dancer character, she gets to have an ability that basically makes any attack or, you know, help or healing or buff spell basically affect everybody. And I'm like, that was insane. Playing that entire game with having that on all the time basically made certain instances where I would have lost or died winnable. When I had certain things that get our backs against the wall, just one clutch thing that was now able to affect everybody made it so much more interesting and fun. And I didn't even talk about like the other classes. Merchant is still busted. I think that overall, I think the mage class in this game got a considerable buff with some of the skills that it gets. The warrior class is completely fun and kind of ridiculous to play in this game, but it's really fun when you get to all the things where you get to go to all these towns to unlock your new abilities by talking to the people who also have a proficiency in that, and then being like, hey, do you want this extra thing so somebody else can reclass into this? So then, you know, the main character you started off with can now start learning different skill abilities and learning different actual abilities, and then having more open gameplay by being able to mix and match certain type of party combinations. And I'm gonna stop because, as you can tell, I am getting wound for sound, and like, there is so much stuff and so much good stuff in this game. Like, I will say one thing, the voice acting in this game is either hit or miss, depending on if you really care about audio, because most of this was done during COVID. For me, it didn't really detract from anything, and I still enjoyed it. And again, the story may be, the stories that you decide to choose to do and to finish, you may feel like you like them or dislike them more due to the characters themselves. Because I think the character writing in this game is probably the best it's ever been. This game has a world map where you can travel on boat, which was not in the first game, and honestly felt refreshing instead of just, you know, having to only be on ground and walk around on foot. You can actually unlock a boat, which is a side quest, by the way, which is for basically what you're supposed to do for post-game or beating the game, which you can unlock super early. And it's like, there's so much good stuff in this game that it genuinely boggles my mind why something like, I'm gonna roast it again because Final Fantasy 16 is a game that looks fidelically good and has some interesting gameplay, but everything else about it doesn't really carry as well as I think both of the other Square titles that I talked about before. Because the music is on point and always fun. The gameplay is always cool and always fun. The experimentation in allowing you to have so much control over customizing all of this stuff is immaculate. To the point where I make this my game of the year because every single aspect that I wanted from a game to play this year came from this one game. And I can't stop thinking about how cool it's going to be when they make a third version of this game. Now, of course, I think this goes without saying, like I said, this is completely on my behalf of saying this. I think this game was worth $60 and more, honestly. Because, like I said, just like how I liked Star Ocean for having like 99 endings, I feel like anytime you pick up and play Octopath Traveler 2, you can have a different experience just by starting a different file with a different main character, and then having to work around their gimmicks or their abilities, and then just experiencing it in a whole completely different new way. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, Octopath Traveler 2 is my game of this year, and I'm so glad that you are able to join me on this journey through all of the games that I played this year. So thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Alright, so, you know, we finally made it to the end of the video. Like, that was a journey and a half, wasn't it? Like I said, I very much appreciated all of your guys' support this year, because not only am I talking about the fact that we hit 500 subscribers now, and talking about all that, but by the time I finish this video, it will probably be Christmas time, and this will probably be released on Christmas, because this is now going to try to be my yearly tradition of me just making this big video. And I don't know how long it's going to be, because again, I still have to sit down and edit it. By the time I'm recording this, it's 7, 8 p.m. on the 6th, the day before the Game Awards. But genuinely speaking, there was a lot of quality games that came out in 2023, and like I said, I know I took ribs at, I took pokes and jabs at, Final Fantasy 16, but I will say that it was still a good game. I just don't know if it was worth the price, but it was still a good game. And in general, if you found a game that you loved this year, then yeah, for all intents and purposes, I want to hear you guys and talk about what your favorite game of the year was, because for me, of course, I have a bias of what I like, and I know that this whole video was just me talking and discussing it for myself, but it's important to hear back from my community and what they thought the game of the year of this year was. And like I said, even if it came out last year during like the tail end of like a November or whatever, I still count it as the game of this year because, even though an award show may not count a game that came out at the tail end of where they were trying to do votes, I still appreciate those games that came out. And like I said, there was a lot of games that I wanted to also play this year, which I was going to make an honorable mention thing, but we'll go ahead and do it now. Etrian Odyssey 1, 2, and 3. I wanted to play you so bad, but I literally got caught up in so many RPGs or other things coming out. I am so sorry. You will be on the list next year. Promise. I promise you that. Another honorable mention that I technically did not, I think it's really difficult because, there were some other games that I had played that I did not put on here because I played them, but I didn't beat them or I didn't really enjoy them to want to talk about them. So, there are some other things, but they're slipping my mind, but, I just wanted to make an honorable mention about Etrian Odyssey because I did mean to play that game. But like I said, guys, I played 17 plus games this year, and if I had to talk about all of them, this video probably would have been even longer than this. And not even speaking just that fact, but also just the realistic thing of me being a person who works full-time, so I'm like, yeah, that wasn't gonna happen, but I think I did justice to every single other game that I put on this list for this year. And it made me really realize some things that I really enjoy about video games and why I enjoy making content. It's because all of these things that we play are pieces of art in the form of media that is still expressing, ideas and dreams and admiration that, have been created because of all of these different people working towards making video games for us to enjoy. Because like I said, just because I don't like a video game or take pokes or, jab at some of the video games that I did, like I said, Final Fantasy 16, you're still cool, but you're just not as cool as the other things I played because I can definitely point at things that I think were more fun in the other games than I compared it to you. And I know it's even unfair because I didn't technically play the game, but that's because I also didn't want to buy it because it didn't look interesting to me. And that's all I gotta say. That's all really I gotta say. But hey, if you're broke, just say so. anyways, that's it. That's gonna be it for the video. But once again, my lovely childs of the internet, thank you so much for allowing me to enjoy and once again another year on this platform. You guys make it so much brighter and safer and make me happy knowing that I can continue to just put out content and you guys just enjoy it. And genuinely, I hope you guys have a good rest of your year if we don't get to see each other until the next year. I hope you had a happy holidays, hope you have a happy Christmas and a happy new year. But I'll catch you lovely chows of the internet next time, and I love you all, and ciao ciao until the next video. See you my precious chows of the internet until we meet again in the chow garden.